detail. I wasn't invited. That's not the place that I was supposed to go to.
And your testimony is that you traveled in one car. Sorry, you testified that you traveled in one car, that was the BMW X6 that belonged to either Senzo or both Kelly and Senzo, correct?
Uchilo ukuthi nanihamba ngemoto eyodwa iBMW X6 kwakuyeka Senzo noma ke eka Senzo kanye naye uKelly.
Kunjalo.
That's correct.
Now, you also testified that when you got to that party venue, you realized that the preparations were still ongoing, so you decided to shoot straight to Dorothy Nyembe Park, correct?
Ushilo ke kubufakazi bakho ukuthi nathi uma senifika ke la kwakufanele ukuthi party bekhona nafika ke ukuthi basa prepare ke noma basa busy ngamalungiselelo nase nindlula ke niyakhona eDorothy Nyembe.
Ngezwe kusho njalo yebo.
That's what I heard being said, yes.
Now, having performed at Dorothy Nyembe Park, you go through Soweto for some reasons, but eventually the trip is to Katlehong at Muthokozi Sitwala's place, correct?
And qedile ke manje noma seqediwe ke eDorothy Nyembe nadlula ke la nandlula khona eSoweto kodwa ke gcine naseniya eKatlehong kabumthokozisi.
Yebo njalo.
That is correct, yes.
And what was the purpose for going to Muthokozisi's home or residence?
Kwakuyini ke inhloso noma injongo yokuthi niye khona ke kabo Mthokozisi?
Mina ngangazi ukuthi kiwelani kwaMthokozisi kodwa ngabona uMthokozisi engena endlini ephuma eseshintshile.
I didn't know as to what the purpose was of going there, but what I saw Mthokozisi going into the house, and when he came back, he had changed.
And after Muthokozisi had changed clothes, then you traveled to Spruit View at the off-ramp at N3 Highway to collect Tumelo Madlala, correct?
Nisukile ke lapha eKatlehong naseniya ke noma ke nihamba ngayo N3 kwi off ramp yase Spruit View ukuthi niyolanda yena ke uTumelo Madlala.
Yebo njalo.
That is correct, yes.
And before the 26th of October 2014, had you met Tumelo Madlala before?
Ngaphambi kwazo i26 ka October 2014 wawuke wahlangana naye yini uTumelo Madlala?
Cha, bengaze ngihlangane naye.
No, I've never met him.
And indeed, Tumelo Madlala is found and picked up from the off-ramp, and then you drive towards your mom's house, correct?
Nase nimthola ke uTumelo Madlala nase nihamba ke niya endlini kama wakho.
Yebo njalo.
That's correct, yes.
Now, just for clarification purposes, yesterday as you testified, you repeatedly referred to Tumelo Madlala's crutches, right?
Uma ufakaza ke izolo ke ubuphinda ke ukhuluma ngawo ama-crutch akhe uTumelo Madlala.
Yep.
Yes.
Now that presupposes that Tumelo Madlala was carrying some sort of injury that necessitated him for using crutches for the purposes of assisting him to walk.
Okusho ukuthi ke wayenokulimala awayenako uTumelo owakumphoqa ke ukuthi asebenzise wona ama-crutch lawo.
Yebo wayelimele onyaweni.
Yes, he had a foot injury.
And that foot injury, was it in a plaster or was it just a bandage?
Kwaku ibandage nje phela noma wayenokhonkolo kanye kulimala kwasenyaweni.
Wayefaka ukhonkolo.
A plaster cast.
And your testimony further is that having picked up Tumelo Madlala, you then proceeded to your mother's house, correct?
Nase uma senimtholeke uTumelo nase nihamba ke niye endlini kama wakho.
Yebo kunjalo.
Yes, that's correct.
And then upon arriving at your mother's house, just outside before you entered, you realized that you needed alcoholic drinks. Then you made a U-turn and went to a place that sells alcohol known as Kwembus, correct?
Nifikile ke lapho nase nithola ke ukuthi nidinga iphuzo nase nihamba ke niya kwaKhwembu.
Asiyenzanga i-U10. Indlela mawehla i-straight ibheke ezantsi.
We didn't make a
Safika ke kwaKhwembu.
Oh sorry. We didn't make a U-turn. It's just straight down the road and then we got to Kwembus.
Now, yesterday, if you recall, we saw cans of alcohol shown to you depicted in photos 114 and 115 of Exhibit D. Do you recall those?
Yebo ngikho.
Yes, I do recall.
And they were cans of Heineken and Guarana, right?
Heineken ne Guarana.
Yebo kunjalo.
Yes, that's correct.
And you testified that you and Kelly drank Guarana, right?
Wena ke no Kelly naphuza iGuarana.
Yebo kunjalo.
That's correct, yes.
What was Tumelo Madala drinking?
uTumelo Madlala wayiphuzani yena?
Engikukhumbulayo ukuthi nje kwakune Heineken babeyishare naye Heineken leyo.
What I do remember is that there was Heineken and they were also sharing the Heineken.
Just to avoid them mentioning them one by one, what you mean is that the deceased Tumelo Madala and Mthokozisi were drinking Heineken.
So ukusho ukuthi uTumelo umthokozisi kanye naye umufi bephuza iHeineken.
Yebo kunjalo.
Yes, that's correct.
Now, your testimony is that at that time you had already consumed 3 cans of that Guarana, correct?
Usushile ukuthi ngaleso sikhathi ke usuphuze ama can out 3 ayo iGuarana.
Yebo kunjalo.
Yes, that's correct.
Now, having drunk those 3 cans, on a scale of 1 to 10, where will you put your state of intoxication or inebriation?
Uzothi ke wawukuphi ke kwiscale sakhe u1 to 10 wena ke manje usuwaphuzile ke lawo ma can out 3 ayo iGuarana.
U10 being what? Kahle kahle.
So-
So what 10 being what?
How intoxicated were you having drunk those 3 Guarana cans?
Nanje ngoba usuwaphuzile ke lawo ma can ke awu 3 eGuarana uzothi ke wena ke wawukwisiphiko isimo manje ngokumayelana nokuthi uphuzile udakiwe awudakiwe.
Kokuqala ngifuna ukwazi ukuthi angifiki notshwala. So amakhena amabili amathathu awenzi lutho.
Firstly, what I would like you to know is that I am not new to alcohol. So 2 or 3 cans doesn't do anything to me.
But you haven't answered my question. I don't know you. I don't know how you drink. My question is simply, based on what you say you drank that day, how were you feeling in terms of intoxication?
Angikwazi ukuthi unjani uma uphuzile ke wena ke wawuzizwa ukanjani ke usuwaphuzile ke lawo ma can out 3.
Ngingadakiwe.
I wasn't drunk.
Now, I have, and will verify, I've verified that Guarana can issue, the alcohol volume is 5.5 per can. If you've taken 3, that will be about 16.5 with my rough arithmetic. I didn't do maths, I did arithmetic. Then that will be 16.5.
Uthuma ebala ke uma ebala uqale lana ke ubhekile ke uphenyile ke wathola ukuthi iGuarana le yakho ican leyo ina 5.5 uma ke uhlanganisa ke ethi ke akayenzile imath wenze arithmetic u16.5 lo uma uhlanganisa lawo ma can out 3.
Therefore, what I'm suggesting to you is that you were more intoxicated than you are telling us in court here.
How can you put that? Yeah, no, you can't put that. There's no basis. You asked the witness about his state of sobriety or drunkenness, and she's giving you her state of that aspect you're trying to establish. But if you say you're putting it to her, then you should have examined her. Because you were not there.
Indeed, my lord. Indeed, my lord. I'll revert to that point. For brevity, I'll move on, but I'll come back to it.
Just as a matter of interest about alcohol drinking in the location, especially, you're aware that some people go to a tavern, they drink, let's say, beer, and after some time they get out and they disgorge the beer by fans. You are aware of that? Well,
I don't go to taverns.
No, I'm telling you. It's a practice. When the stomach is full, he goes out. There's France, he disgorges the beer, he comes back, he drinks again. It's the first time you hear it.
I thought it was done in the 80s. People today are more
It's still been done.
sophisticated than that.
Fill up the table and count the empties.
No, I know in the 80s.
Okay, fine.
It is not now.
All right, it was just by the way.
In the summer lot. And now, at the time of the incident, at your mother's house, there were the following people, and then I'm counting adults. It was yourself, Kedi Khumalo, your mother that I will refer to, Khumalo, the deceased, Tumelo Madlala, Mtogozi Sitwala, and Longwe Twala, who arrived late, and then the two minor children of Kelly, correct?
Bona bonke labo lamagama siwabizile abantu abathi bebekhona ke phakathi endlini lo ngothwala wafika late kanye nabantwana ke laba about 2.
Yebo kunjalo.
Yes, that's correct.
Now I'm gonna go straight for the jugular. You testified that a bit later, between 7 and 8:30 p.m., 2 unknown men entered your mom's residence using the kitchen door, correct?
Ushilo ke ukuthi kamvaka noma sesihambile ke isikhathi phakathi kuka 7 naye u8:30 kwangena ke abantu ababili kini noma emzini endlini kama wakho bengena ngawo usivalo umnyango wase kitchen.
Yebo kunjalo.
Yes, that's correct.
And your description of the first intruder is that he was short and he had dreadlocks hairstyle, correct?
Ushilo ke umchaza lona ke owoqala ukuthi wayemfishane futhi ke enama dreads.
Yebo kunjalo.
Yes, that's correct.
And you testified further that this intruder with dreadlocks was carrying a gun or a firearm, correct?
Nokuthi ke lona wayemfishane enama dreadlocks wayephethe spam.
Yebo kunjalo.
Yes, that's correct.
With respect to the second intruder, the description that you gave there and then was that he was not too light in complexion and that he was taller than the first, a bit taller than the first intruder, correct?
Uma umchaza ke ngaleso sikhathi ke lona owesibili ke wathi ke yena ke wayengamhlophe noma wayengakhanyi ke futhi ke wayemude kunalo owoqala.
Yebo kunjalo.
Yes, that's correct.
Now, your story is that the first suspect pointed the firearm at the occupants of the house, that is yourselves, and demanded money and cell phones.
Umchaza ke uthi lona owoqala wase ekhomba ke ababehlezi phakathi endlini ngesibhamu wabesefuna ke imali kanye nama cell phone.
Yebo kunjalo.
Yes, that's correct.
And further that, when he made such a demand, he was speaking in the Zulu language, correct?
futhi ekusho lokho ngesiZulu.
Yebo kunjalo.
That's correct, yes.
Now, if you can repeat in isiZulu exactly which words did he say when he made such a demand?
Uma ungakuphindaka lokho awakusho ukusho futhi ke ngesiZulu ukuthi wathini uma ekusho.
Wathi khiphani imali nama cellphone.
He said take out money and cell phones.
And in saying or uttering those words, did the first suspect use any expletives or swear words?
Uma ekusho lokho ke ingaba wasebenzisa yini inhlamba?
Cha.
No.
When he uttered those words, what was his demeanor?
Waye kanjani ke noma uma umbhekile noma yena ke nje isimo sakhe waye kanjani uma ekusho lokho?
Wabuka kale serious.
He looked serious.
And when he uttered those words, what was the tone of his voice?
Izwi lakhe ke noma iphimbo lakhe ke lali kanjani ke noma itone ye voice yakhe?
Yaliqinile.
It was firm.
Now, just for contextual purposes, what were you paying your attention to before you noticed that there were people entering the house?
Yini owawuyibhekile wena noma ke attention yakho ngathi ke uyayikuyona ke nkathi ubusubona ke noma uqaphela ke ukuthi kunabantu abangena endlini?
Ngangibuka uKhele wayesixoxela ijoke.
Was looking, or my attention was on Kelly who was sharing a joke to us.
Now, would you agree with me that being pointed with a gun at night in a robbery situation, it's a terrible and frightening ordeal?
Uzovuma ke uma ngithi ukukhonjwa ngesibhamu kwenzeka lokho ke kusebusuku futhi ukuthi yinto leyo esabisayo.
Kunjalo.
That is correct.
And the men that entered that house, that is the first and the second suspect, were complete strangers to you. You had never seen them before that day, correct?
Nokuthi laba babili abangena endlini ngaleli langa ke ukuthi kwakuwabantu ongabazi oqala futhi ukubabona ngaleli langa.
Yebo kunjalo.
Yes, that's correct.
And furthermore, you will agree with me that being pointed with a firearm by a stranger demanding money and phones was fraught with danger because there was a firearm involved.
Nokuthi ke kwenzeke ke lokho ukhonjwe ngesibhamu nokuthi kufunweke lokho kwakufunwa ke ukhonjwe ngesibhamu ukuthi manje ke kwakusekunengozi ke ekhona phakathi ngoba kunesibhamu.
Yebo kunjalo.
Yes, that's correct.
Would I then be correct to say you were personally yourself, were you frightened at the sight of the first suspect pointing you with a firearm and demanding money and cell phones? Were you personally frightened?
Sengikhuluma ngawe ke manje uthi wena ke nangumuntu umilana ke phambi kwakho use ukhombile ngesibhamu ufuna imali ufuna cell phone ukuthi le into leyo eyakwenza nje ukuthi usabe.
Ngafreeze nje angangazi ukuthi kwenzakalani.
I just froze and didn't know as to what was happening.
And when the suspects entered the house, what was the state of illumination in the house like?
Kwakukanjani ke la ngaphakathi ke endlini sikhuluma ke ngokhanya nkathi bengena.
Kwakukhanya yonke indawo.
There's light all over the place.
For clarification purposes, when you say it was light all over, let's break it down. the kitchen area, are you saying the lights were on in the kitchen area?
Ibani noma ama-lights ayekhanya e-kitchen.
Ekitchen kwakhanya kukhanya dining room, kukhanya passage.
The kitchen, the dining room, as well as the passage, the lights were on.
Now, the first assailant with the firearm, or the first suspect, when he enters and at the stage where he stops and points the firearm at the people in the house, exactly where did he stand relative to the sofa, your side of the sofa, where you were sitting?
Asikhulume ngalo wokuqala ke ungenile uzothi la ame khona ke uma kuphi nendawo mayelana ne couch owawuhlezi kuyona wena.
Wayime nje phambi kwethu ngapha kwa left.
He was just standing in front of us on the left side.
And in which hand was the firearm held by the first suspect as he pointed the firearm at the people in the house?
Nanjengoba isibhamu lesi sikhombile kubantu laba abaphakathi endlini, isibhamu lesi sasekusiphi isandla sakhe.
Lokho ke angisakukhumbuli kodwa nje wayesikhombile sona.
That I can't recall, but he was pointing us with the fire, with it.
And the position in which he was pointing the firearm at you, what position did he point the firearm at you? Was it hands chest in front, hands to the side? What position was that?
Ungathi ke uhlobo noma indlela yakhe wayesikhombe ngayo anikhombe ngayo ke unikhombe izandla zakhe zila eceleni noma unikhombe izandla zakhe noma isandla sakhe sila phambi kwakhe esifubeni.
Lokhu phambili esifubeni.
In front, chest, in front of the chest.
Now, when that first suspect demands money and cell phones, did anyone from the people in the house respond to that demand?
Uma esefuna ke imali nama cell phones, ukhona yini kunina ke noma kulabo abaphakathi endlini ke owa responda noma owaphendula ke kuloko akushoyo?
Cha.
No.
Sorry, my lord, may I have a request?
Yeah, fine.
If I want to drink, because some
You
judges,
want?
if I want to drink water, because some judges are physical, can I drink from
okay.
here?
As long as there's no alcohol in the water.
Now, the firearm that you saw from your vantage point where you were seated, saying he was towards the left on the sofa where you were, can you describe it?
Isibhamu lesi ke owasibona ke kundawo ohlezi kuyona ungasichaza.
Oqala ibhamu ngizazi.
Firstly, I am not familiar with firearms.
Engikwaziwe nje ukuthi sasidark nyana.
What I know is that it was darkish.
Kwakungezona le ibhamu ezinkulu ezisindayo but sasesincane.
It was not the big, heavy firearms, but it was small.
Okay, let's break it down. A firearm is composed of 3 sections, and I'll explain them to you. The first part is the iron part, this long thing. It's called the barrel of a firearm. That's a pipe-like, hollow pipe-like, where the bullet travels to leave the firearm.
Chazela ke ngasisibhamu ukuthi la ngaphambili ke ile athi ibarrel ila inhlamvu ke ihamba khona.
What color was that part of that firearm?
La ngaphambili ke le ndawo ayichazayo ukuthi ubufuna ukwazi ukuthi kwakuumbala onjani, sathi umbala onjani la ngaphambili.
Okokuqala nje right now ngazuthi ukhuluma isiFrench ngoba ngiyazi nalento oyishoyo.
Firstly, now it's like you're speaking French because I don't even know or understand what you are saying now.
Okay, let's break it down. In general, are you saying the whole firearm was black or blackish in color?
Ingabe uthi ke sasimnyama okanye si darkish ke ngokuchilo ke ngombala.
So umuntu mayekhomba ngesibhamu wena uzoma utadisha isibhamu ukuthi siyinhloboni sinjani.
If you are pointed with a firearm, are you now going to stand and study what kind or of a firearm it is?
We are going to have a problem if you answer my questions with a question because I don't answer to you.
Sizoba nenkinga ke uma kuukuthi umbuzo wami uphendula ngombuzo ngoba mina ke angiphenduli kuwena.
Kodwa umbuzo wakho uma ungacacile uthi nguphendule kanjani?
But how do you expect me to answer your question if it is not clear?
What is it about the question that is not clear to you?
Yini engacacile ngalombuzo kuwena?
Isibhamu ngibuza ngaso ngisho ngathi ibhama ngizazi.
The firearm you are
Noma
asking.
uchaza mhlambe kumele ulethe isithombe usibeke la mhlambe kuzongicacisela ngesithombe ngoba uma ulokhu wenza ngezandla angazi ukuthi wenza.
The firearm you are asking me about, because I told you that I know nothing about firearms. Maybe if you were to put a photo in front of me and tell me, but if you explain using your hands, then I am lost.
The simple thing that I'm asking you is, if you relate to your friends that I was pointed with a firearm at an incident of a robbery, you say it was black and silver or the handle was brown. That's what I'm trying to ask from you. I'm not saying you are a firearm expert. You are a dancer, you are a singer, I know that.
Angithi ke ungoti kuyibhamu. Kodwa ke uma usuchazela asithi uchazela abangani bakho ke ukuthi bengikhonjwe ngesibhamu uzothi ke la emuva ke sasi black noma sasi silver uthi la ngaphambili sasimnyama. Ngiyakwazi ukuthi uyadanisa ke so angisho ukuthi unolwazi ngeibhamu yilokho nje ngikubuza ngazo.
Angisinaka ngesibhamu ukuthi sasinhloboni.
I didn't notice or take note of the firearm as to what kind it was
Noma sasinombala onjani futhi.
or what the color was.
Now, just to make sure that I understand where you were seated relative to where the person pointing the firearm was, so that perhaps we can clear this up once and for all. I'll ask that Exhibit D, photos 57 thereof, be shown to you, please.
Photo number?
It's 57, my lord.
57,
Of
okay.
Exhibit D, 57, my lord.
All right.
Now, in terms of the picture, if my recollection serves me well, you and your mother, before the arrival of Longetwala, you were seated on the sofa on the left, correct?
Mangikhumbula kahle lesi sithombe wena noma ke ngaphambili kokuthi uLong wafike nanhlezi kule sofa ose left.
Cha kulona iqiniso lelo.
No, that's not true.
Okay, that's why I said if my memory serves me well, can you jog my memory, please?
Ngabe ngishila ko mangikhumbula kahle ungangikhumbuza ke.
Ngangihleli kulo sofa kwa right.
I was seated on the sofa on the right.
Thanks for that. Now, when the first suspect enters, I know that there's the beginning of the arc here. Relative to that, where was the first suspect at when you saw him pointing the firearm at the people in the house?
Ngiyazi ukuthi lana ke kulaqala khona ke iarc noma la vele khona ke kodwa ke mayela nje nalapha yana ke lona owokuqala wayemi kuphi ke nendawo yena uma engena endlini.
Njengoba ukhaphethi uphelela la uphelela khona yena wayeme phezulu kwama tiles.
Just where the carpet ends, he was standing on the tiles.
Now let's put an estimation of a distance between where you were seated and where he was. Just give me your educated guess in terms of distance.
Uma singaqagela nje ibanga ke la ayemi khona yena nala wena owawuhlezi khona.
Okokuqala imethi ngangizizonda esikoleni. So indaba yama measurements nama estimation into engakwazi ukuyenza leyo.
Firstly, I hated maths at school. So when it comes to distances and measurements, that's something I'm unable to do.
Okay. Let's take a simple guesstimate from where Mr. Jonas is, Mr. Interpreter, to the end of the big screen or somewhere relative. Can you estimate the distance from where Mr. Jonas is towards the end of the screen, or is it further than that?
Ukuthi uma la ngikhona mina ke uye la esiqinisela khona noma uyendlula.
Hayi nalokho kunzima nje ngoba akuyona indlu yasekhaya le.
Even that is difficult because that's not our home.
Okay,
My home.
just let me not belabor this point. Your view of the firearm as it's pointed to you, is it from the side? Do you see it from this side or from the front by the barrel?
La owawuhlezi khona isibhamu uma usibona eceleni noma usibona la ngaphambili.
Ngangisibona from eceleni.
From the side.
And from that vantage point, you couldn't tell the color of the firearm.
Njengoba ngisho nje ukuthi sasidarkish.
As I'm saying that it was darkish.
Let me track back to a question I asked you, and in response thereto, I asked you, when the firearm was pointed at the people in the house, what was the reaction? You stated that you froze. You remember that?
Ushilo ke wathi nje wena wafreeza ke uma nikhonjwe ngesibhamu yakhumbula lokho.
Ngiyakhumbula lokho.
Yes, I remember that.
But in your testimony yesterday, you said when this thing was happening, you immediately took your phone and hid it under a cushion. Do you remember that?
Kodwa ke izolo uthe umufakazi wakhe ukuthi kwathi uma kwenzeka lokho wase ngaleso sikhathi ke wathatha ifoni yakho wayifihla ke emuva kwecushion.
Yebo ngisho njalo kodwa ngakwenza lokho emva kokuthi uLongwe amphushe.
Yes, I said so, but I did that after Longwe had pushed him.
Now, going forward, your story is that the second suspect then, in fact, let me put it this way so that we don't confuse each other. When the two suspects entered and the first one produces a firearm, Khumalo then runs to a bedroom that is opposite the kitchen, that's facing the kitchen like this, correct?
Bangenile ke labo babili ke lona oqala ke esekhiphe isibhamu noma ephethe ke isibhamu wasebaleka ke uKelly engena ke kwicamera eli qondene nekhishi.
Yebo njalo.
Yes, that's correct.
And your story is...
Why do you say story? Please, just say evidence. Please, we are lawyers.
Okay, all right. Your testimony or evidence is that the second suspect then follows or chases after Kelly to that bedroom, correct?
Uthike noma ubufakazi bakho buthike lo wesibili ke wase elandela ke uKelly ukuya kulelo kamera.
Yebo kunjani?
Yes, that's correct.
And in that process, Kelly gets into the room and closes the door, and the second suspect tries to push the door from the outside, correct?
Ubona ke lokho uKelly usongiya ngena ke kamereni uyavala ke umnyango nomstapha ke lona yena ke uyazama ke ukuthi asivule asipush.
Yebo kunjani?
Yes, that's correct.
Now, where were you when you observed that interaction between Kelly and the second suspect?
Wawukuphi nendawo wena ke uma ubona lokho kwenzeka phakathi kwalo msolo wakhe kanye naye uKelly?
Ngangisahleli phansi la bengibonise khona ukuthi bengihleli khona.
I was still seated at the same position that I had pointed.
By the way, when did this second suspect enter the house?
Yena ke lo wesibili umsolo wangena nini noma ngasiphi isikhathi endlini?
Njengoba bese ngishilo ukuthi bangene belandelana. Wathi omnye mayima phambili, omnye wama ngasekhishini.
As I've already said that as they came in, they were following each other. So as the one just stood there, and then the other one stood in the kitchen.
Was the second suspect also armed with a weapon of some sort?
Ingaba nalona owesibili ke naye sikhona isikhali awayesiphethe.
Angikubonanga lokho.
I didn't see that.
Now, clarify for me this. In your evidence, you say the second suspect stood next to the stove. Do you recall saying that yesterday?
Uyakhumbula yini noma asiqale lana ke ngicela ungichazele lokho. Uthe kufakazi bakho lo wesibili ke wema ke eceleni kwestove. Uyayikhumbula usho lokho?
Ngiyakhumbula ngisho lokho kodwa ngithe phakathi naphakathi eminyango lo okungenisela epassage.
Yes,
ukuthi inestofu futhi khona la eceleni kwakhona.
I remember saying that, but I said it was in the middle between the door that now leads to the passage. There is a stove right there or next to it.
Now, the second suspect does not manage to open the door where Kelly has, the bedroom door where Kelly has run to. What then happens to this second suspect if you observe that?
Manje ke lona owesibili ke examine kwakhe ke ukuthi avuleke umnyango lowo ke olelo kamera Kelly angene kulona ke akaphumelelanga kulokho. Kwase kwenzekani ke ngayi lona owesibili?
Njengoba bese ngichazile ukuthi akuzange ukuthi aphushe kanye noma kabili bese yayeka. Kwakuyi push and pull khona lapha eminyango.
As I've already said that it was just not a matter of him only pushing once or twice and then he stopped. It was a pushing and pulling right there at the door.
Yes, I understand that, but what I'm asking is this. Once he did not succeed, after that pushing and pulling, once he didn't succeed, Kelly's still in the bedroom, right?
Ngiyakuzwa ke uma usho lokho kodwa ke ngikubuza ukuthi angithi ukuzamile ke lokho futhi ke akaphumelelanga kodwa ke kona lokho uKelly wayesengaphakathi ekamereni. If you say that he didn't succeed, if you just because I didn't see that he didn't succeed or that there were signs that he didn't succeed. If you can just explain that to me when you say he didn't succeed.
Did he manage to enter that room where Kelly Khumalo was?
Wakwazi ukuthi angene kulelo kamera uKelly awayekulona?
Cha.
No.
Then my question is that after that, when he couldn't enter that room, what happened to him? Where did he go?
Engikubuzayo ke ukuthi emuva kwalokho ke esengakwazanga ukuthi angene kule kamera wayaphi.
Lalela njengoba bese ngichazile ukuthi kwakuyi action eyayenzeka laphana. So maye eya elandela uKelly ekamereni and then uLongwe waphusha lo wamadreads wamusale emuva sasukuma sonke samba dudula saya na kitchen.
Listen here, what then happens, all of that was like in an action. So when he did that, that's when Longwe stood up and then pushed this one. And we all then stood up and pushed them, went with them towards to the kitchen.
Now, just to track back a bit, when the second suspect entered the house, the first suspect says, money and cell phones, we want money and cell phones, to that effect. What did this second suspect say, if anything at all?
Nanjengoba lo woqala uma ngena wathi ke khiphani imali nama cellphone. Uma kuukuthi ke lo wesibili kukhona wakusho yini awayisho yena lo wesibili?
Cha akashongo lutho.
No, he didn't say anything.
And at the time of this incident, where are the children, Kelly Khumalo's children?
Ngesikhathi ke salesi sigameko ke babe kuphi ke abantwana bakaKelly?
Mangikhumbula kahle uChristian wayelokhe yaphansi phezulu kodwa uthingo ngase ngimthathile ngawumlalisa ekamereni.
If I remember well, Christian was moving up and down, but I had already taken Tingo to go to the bedroom to sleep.
Now, let's come to this aspect of Longwe Twala pushing the first suspect out or away, and then him leaving the house via the kitchen door.
Ake sizeke kulo daba lwakhe uLongwe Twala ke esesukuma ke esephusha lona ke owoqala wase eyaphuma yena.
Now, the person that you say Longwe Twala pushed is the first suspect, the one with dreadlocks and the one in possession of a firearm, correct?
Lona othi waphushwa uLongwe ilo owoqala owayinama dreadlocks futhi ephethe isibhamu angithi?
Yebo kunjani?
Yes, that's correct.
Now, when you say Longwe stands up, approaches this first suspect and pushes him, the person with the firearm at the time, is the firearm still pointed at the people in the house?
Uma uthi ke uLongwe wasukuma waya waqonda kuyena wase emphusha, ingabe ngaleso sikhathi ke lo owoqala isibhamu wayesasikhombile ekhombe abantu noma esanikhombile ngaso ngaleso sikhathi uLongwe akwenza lokho?
Wasikhomba kodwa uLongwe mayemphushela le kusho ukuthi kwa sasuka kuthina ngoba wayesehlehlile.
Yes, he pointed the firearm at us, but then when Longwe pushed him aside, then it means that it was now not pointing at us anymore because he moved.
Let's perhaps stick with this photo 57. The first aspect, according to your testimony, is pushed by Longwe Twala. Remind me again where Longwe Twala was seated.
uLongwe wayehlezi la eqaleni. Esofeni.
Longwe was seated where the witness is pointing, right at the beginning of the couch.
And when he pushes the first suspect, where does he push him to? Or against what, relative to that picture?
Uma empusha umpushela kuphi? Uma usebenzisa isithombe lesiyana.
Kulesi sithombe akubonakali kodwa wampushela ephasitsheni.
It's not visible on this photo, but he pushed him towards the passage.
If I may request that perhaps photo 58 be shown. No, that's not. Let's check 59. There's a photo that I'll come to that. There's a photo that I made. I'll come back to that. And now, when Longwe pushes this first suspect away, what does the first suspect do?
Ulongwe
What's the result?
uma ulongwe semphusha ke wenzani ke yena lo ophushwayo ophushwa ulongwe?
wahlehla wayemuva.
You moved backwards.
And the second suspect, what does he do as Longwe pushes the first suspect?
Manje ke wenzani lo wesibili uma ulongwe ephusha lo wokuqala?
Ngokukhumbula kwami wayeseselapha emnyango.
As far as I can recall, he was still there at the door.
But what I'm asking is, did he take any action or he didn't?
Ingabe engikubuza ukuthi ngabe khona yini awakwenza noma cha?
Angisakukhumbuli kahle.
I can't recall that well.
Back your indulgence, my lord. We're looking for,
What's that?
we back your indulgence. I'm looking for the
Oh.
appropriate code.
Okay.
Yeah, perhaps the previous question, to clarify, Longwe is seated towards the right of that sofa. He stands up and pushes. There's a what looks like a heater there. Relative to that, where does the first suspect, in fact, what happens to him when he's pushed? Does he fall off? Does he stumble? What happens to the first suspect when he's pushed?
Kwenzekani kuyena uma esephushwa ke ingabe uyawa khona la ashayiseka khona kwenzekani kuyena uma ephushwa?
Wahlehla nje wabonisa ukuthi ibalance ayikho kahle.
He just moved backwards as the witnesses just indicating that he wasn't that well balanced.
Now, let's make this make sense. The first suspect in possession of a firearm gets pushed by somebody from the house in a robbery situation, yet he does nothing after he's been pushed.
It's a complex matter. That matter should be left for argument.
Speculation. Because you are saying he does nothing.
I'll leave
And
it to
she is
argument.
saying he was pushed, and from her observation, he must have lost his balance. That's
I'll
what she
leave that
said.
for argument at the close of the case. Now, before Longwe pushed the first suspect away or off, did you at any stage hear the cocking or the raking of a gun at any point?
Ngaphambilini kokuthi ulongwe amphusheke ingabe wakuzwa yini ngalokho ke ekuthiwa ukhokhwa kwesibhamu ukuthi kwenzeka lokho la khona isibhamu sibanga umsindo ukusho ukuthi uyasikhokha?
Hayi angikhumbuli.
No, I don't recall.
Now, after how long, after Longwe had escaped from the house, according to your evidence, does the first shot get fired?
Kusemuva kwesikhathi esingakanani uLongwe ephumile endlini ngokukhumbula kwakho ukuqhuma kwesibhamu siqhuma ihlandla lokuqala?
Ngokwazi wami angikaze ngibheke isikhathi, and uma kunesehlakalo esinje, isikhathi is the last thing on your mind.
As far as I know, I never looked at the time, and when such an incident occurs or takes place, time is the last thing on your mind.
Now, in fact, I jumped the gun. Let me start here. Your evidence is that after Longwe had escaped from the house, all of you stand up from your relative position from the couches and you all approach the first suspect, push him towards the kitchen, correct?
Uthi kubufakazi bakho emuva kokuthi uLongwe esebalekile noma esephumileke endlini nasenonke nisukuma-ke naya kulo owokuqala nimdudula noma nimphusha.
Sabadudula bobabili, asithathanga oyedwa noma umude noma umfishane, sabadudula bonke bobabili sana bekitchen.
We pushed both of them. We didn't take the short one or the tall one. We pushed both of them to the kitchen.
And when you say all of you stood up, is there a specific person who stood up first or initiated this approach of the first suspect and the pushing that happened thereafter?
Uma uthi nonke ingabe ukhona yini owasukuma kuqala kwawuyena ke oqalayo ke ukuthi aduduleke lona oqala uma uthi nje nasukuma nonke ingabe ukhona yini okwawuyena osukuma kuqala waphusha?
Angikhumbula ukuthi ubani wasukuma kuqala kodwa ngiyazi ukuthi sasukuma.
No, I can't remember or recall as to who stood up first, but I remember that we stood up.
Now, at the time of the incident, how old was Christian, the boy?
Ngesikhathi kwenzeka lokhu uChristian waneminyaka emingaki?
Mangaphazami uChristian uvele ngo-2010 mhlawumbe la ku-3-4.
If I'm not mistaken, Christian was born in 2010, so he was between 3 and 4.
Now, as you are pushing both suspects, none of you from the house are screaming to alert the neighbors that there's something wrong in your house.
Nanjengoba nibaphusha ke laba ababili ke akekho kunyina ke kulabo bephakathi ke endlini omemezayo nje ukuthi omakhelwane bezwe ukuthi kukhona okwenzekayo la endlini.
Umsindo wawukhona.
There was a noise,
Kodwa engakwazi ukuthi omakhelwane bezwa na ngoba wethu umnyango wawuvaliwe.
but what I don't know is whether the neighbors heard because our door was closed.
Let me break it down because you say, I'm asking about screaming, you're talking about umsindo. Did you personally scream to alert somebody out there that there's a problem in your house?
Wena ngikhuluma ngawe ke ingaba mhlambe wamemeza nje ukuthi nje bazi noma bezwe omakhelwane ukuthi khona okwenzeka endlini?
Cha ngikukhumbula.
No, I don't remember that.
And by the way, from the witness statements of the Ngwashes, your neighbors at 13510 Kutano Street,
Kuyitatimende zomakhelwane bakho noma omakhelwane kwa 13510 oNcatshe.
Mr. Ngwache Senior, the ex-police officer, Bulelani, they say in Mzamo section, your section, there's a whistleblowing system in terms of which each house has a whistle like your soccer whistle, and each time there's a crime or something wrong within that community in Mzamo section, a whistle is blown to alert the neighbors and the community generally that there's something wrong in a particular household where that whistle emanates from. You know about that?
I'm going to ask you, Mr. Ramusepile, just to be short.
Okay. All right.
Okay, but I've got it, it's fine.
All right.
Kwistatement sakhe-ke noma akushoyo ubaba uNcatshe owayeyiphoyisa-ke ngaphambilini uthi-ke eMzamo section noma-ke kuleya area la nihlala khona-ke kunento la kushaywa khona-ke noma umuzi ngamunye-ke unempempe noma indweba ukuthi uma ngaba khona-ke okwenzekayo ukuthi-ke kushaywa yona-ke leyo mpempe leyo ukuthi abanye bazi ukuthi khona isehlakalo esenzakalayo.
Leyo lanto ngiyayazi ngake ngezwela ngayo kodwa ekhaya sasingenayo impempe.
That I know. I once heard about it, but at home we didn't have that whistle, or we didn't have the whistle.
I'll take your answer, and just to complete this point, and in fact, on that day, most of the people that converged at the house came because Mr. Ngashe himself was on the street blowing that whistle.
Ngizoqhubeka-ke naloko ngithi-ke abantu abeza noma abantu ababekhona-ke noma bafika-ke kini ekhaya beza ngoba yena-ke ubaba uNcatshe wayesestradeni kuye eshaya leyo mpempe.
Engakusho ukuthi mina akaze ngafika kwamaphiri akaze ngizwe impempe.
What I can say is that I went as far as Mapiri's house, or I reached Mapiri's house, and I never heard a whistle.
Ngabuya ngaze ngaya esibhedlela angizange ngizwe leyo mpempe.
I went to hospital, I never heard that whistle.
Ukuthi wayeme ngaphi-ke usengasichazela naye.
As to where he was standing, he can tell.
That will be the loudest whistle to be heard from your house to the hospital. That will be the biggest whistle in the world.
I don't think they will listen to answer.
Sorry, did Mr. Ngashe make a statement?
He did, my lord.
Is that what he says in his statement?
That's correctly so, my lord.
Okay.
As a case, my lord, we just want to place on record.
Yeah.
We came to hear last week that Mr. Ngashe Senior has unfortunately passed on.
Oh, the same gentleman.
I'm here to inform my
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the senior, my lord. So.
Yeah.
Now, by your own admission, your kitchen area is a very tiny space, correct?
Ngokusho kwakho-ke ukuthi ikhishi lakini-ke lincane kakhulu.
Ngeke kunjani?
Yes, that's correct.
Now, if I may request that photo 15 of Exhibit D be shown to you, please. Now, when this fighting with the two suspects, as you testified to yesterday, occurs, where were you relative to this picture?
Uma lokulwa-ke lokuwisana-ke kwenzeka-ke nalabo babili-ke wena-ke ukuphi nendawo noma wawukuphi nendawo uma kusetshenziswa lesi sithombe.
Lesi sithombe oqala siveza ikhishi ngokuphelela kwaso.
This picture firstly doesn't depict the kitchen as a whole.
I'm looking for them to perhaps get a better picture for us that shows from the beginning of the kitchen door on the passage side. whilst he's doing that, your testimony is that during this fight, you saw one of Tumelo Madala's crutch, and then you went next to the heater. We saw where the heater was. That's why I want to find out, before I even ask that question, where you were relative to this picture. Okay. Perhaps I'll come to it after the tea break, if we've got tea in Pretoria today. But be that as it may, I'll come to this point. Let me just put an asterisk next to it, and we'll see where to take it.
Which point is it? Where Tumelo's crutch was
It's in the
found?
It's on the other side where there's a heater, my lord. So I want to find out from here, when she says she saw it, and then she went to take it to come and perhaps use it in the fight. That's what I want to find out, my lord.
No, that's the evidence. She says she picked, sorry, do I recall you well saying you did pick up the crutch?
Yeah, ngiyakhumbula ngithi uthi
I mean, that's the
waxosha
evidence.
i-crutch.
Yebo, man.
Yes, my lord.
I leave it. I'll come to it. Now, let's move on. Your evidence is that you picked up this crutch and then you wanted to hit a suspect. Which suspect was that, by the way?
Ishilo-ke ukuthi wayixosha-ke i-crutch leyo ufuna ushaya-ke umsotho. Umuphi lo wafuna umshaya?
Suspect number 2.
Suspect number 2.
And in your attempt to hit him, suspect number 2, you then realize that you couldn't reach. And that's when Tumelo Madala takes the crutch from you and hits the second suspect, correct?
Kulokho-ke ukuthi uzama-ke noma ufuna ukuthi umshaye wathola-ke ukuthi awufiki kuyena-ke yila uTumela athatha khona i-crutch amshaya ngayo.
Kunjalo.
That's correct.
What was the reason for you not to be able to reach that suspect to hit him with that crutch?
Kwakungani noma kwakuyini eyayibangela ukuthi ungafiki-ke noma ungakhoni-ke ukuthi umshaye ngayo i-crutch leyo?
Okokuqala ngimfishane.
Firstly, I'm short.
Okwesibili ngikhumbula kahle ukuthi khona babe phambi kwami ukuthi nje angisekho sure ukuthi kwakubani exactly.
And secondly, there were those that were in front of me, but I can't remember well as to who those were.
I'll revert to that evidence after tea, because that's exactly the point where I want to head in, the tiny confines of that kitchen and the number of people that were involved in that fight in that tiny space. My lord, I'm not sure today we are having a comfort or a tea break at this point.
Are you tired of cross-examining?
At this point, my lord, I am.
Yeah.
Just for 15 minutes.
Okay.
I'm not sure everybody agrees on my left, my lord. 15
I'm the
minutes.
first one to agree.
Okay. Mr. Malloy, what time is it?
It's in order. We can resume at, it's now 14 minutes past 11. You can resume at 1:30.
1:30. Okay. Guarantee. Still under oath, ma'am?
Yeah.
Yes, my lord.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, my lord. I mean, that's it. Now, Ms. Khumalo, we were at the point where you had first a clutch belonging to Khumalo Madlala from next to the heater. You tried to hit him, you couldn't reach. Then Khumalo Madlala himself takes the crutch and hit the second suspect. Are we still together?
Silana ke uthatha khona icrash kaThumelo eyayiseduze ke kweheater ushaya ngayo ke kodwa ke ngeshwa akuzange uphumeleleke noma ukwazi ukuthi umshaye waseyithatha uThumelo kuwena wamshaya ngayo sisahamba sisesonke.
Ngiyakulandela.
I follow you.
Where exactly did Khumalo Madlala hit the second suspect with that crutch?
uThumelo wamshaya kuphi umsololo wesibili ngaleyo crash?
Angizange nginake ukuthi wamshaya kuphi kodwa ngiyazi khona ukuthi wamshaya.
I didn't notice as to where he hit him, but I know that he hit him.
Now, let's go to this aspect of the relative positions of the main actors in that fight, in that confines of that space in the kitchen. And I'm going to ask again that photo 15 be exhibited to us, please.
Sike uzocela ukuthi kukhonjwe isithombe u15 ila azocela khona ukuthi ushoke ukuthi bantu laba babe khona ke kuleyo fight leyo ukuthi babe kuphi nendawo noma ubani wayekuphi.
Yeah, that's the photo. Now, next to, there's a writing, it's circled, I don't know what, my vision can't see clearly. That's a 2, is that a 2? And it's circled. Next to, or in that vicinity, which suspect was standing in that vicinity and the direction or position he was facing?
La kuno2 khona ke usekliwe ubani owayeme lapha yana futhi ke noma umphusolo owayeme lapha yana futhi ebheke ngakuphi.
Owayeme lapha yilo ama-dreads, suspect number 1.
The one who was standing there is the one with the dreadlocks, suspect number 1.
Angithi usho la.
Are you
Yes,
referring to them?
indeed. Now, relative to him, where was the deceased that you refer to as Senzo Meyiwa? I refer to the deceased for my purposes. Where was he?
Umaywa naye ke lo uqala ke oqeda ukukhuluma ngayo usenzo yena ke wayekuphi nendawo.
Babebhekene kanje.
They were facing each other like this.
And then they were facing each other. Were they in a lockup? Because if I understood your testimony is that they were wrestling for a firearm. Is that correct?
Shilo ukuthi babelwisana ngaso isibhamu ngithi.
Yebo kunjani?
That's correct, yes.
Now, in that position, facing each other, they are jostling for the firearm, correct?
Bayalwa ke balwa ngaso isibhamu bebhekene benjalo ngithi.
Yebo kunjani?
That's correct, yes.
Now, next to him, let's use the door handle as a beacon, but I'm not saying it was exactly there. Who was standing there?
Asebenzise ke ihandle lena ke isibhalo ke angithi ikona ke but nje ukhona lapha yana ke ngehandle khona. Kwakubani olapha?
Ususpect number 2 wayeme khona.
Suspect number 2 was standing right there.
And relative to him and the direction that person was facing, who was in that position in front of the second suspect?
Ubani ophambi kwakhe ke ususpect number 2 futhi loyo muntu loyo owayephambi kwesuspect number 2 ebheke ngakuphi kuluphi uhlangothi.
Njengoba sengishilo ukuthi bekubhizi kitchen, angisakhumbuli kahle ngoba abanye babesuka ngapha beyingapha abanye basuke ngala bayekala, so angisakhumbuli kahle ukuthi ubani wayelapha.
As I've already said that it was busy in the kitchen, the others would move from this side to this side and the others from this side to that side. So I can't remember well as to who was there.
Now, my point exactly, and I'll come there to in greater detail when we talk about the ID kit, that was compiled by Mrs. Steenkamp. I think you should recall her. and the ID parade. Now, you say you were busy, and I accept it was busy, it was hectic in that situation. For how long did you observe the facial characteristics of both accused and in particular, both suspects, and in particular, the second suspect? How long did you take in that busyness to observe the facial features of the second suspect?
Kubona ke lokho uthi bakubhizi ke khona lapho ke ukuthi ke wathatha isikhathi esingakanani ke ukuthi ubabheke ubabone ebusweni ke ukuthi banama features athile noma ma features wapi ebusweni bona bobabili ukuthi kwakuthatha isikhathi esingakanani lokho.
Okokuqala ekitchen ilambu lasekitchen li bright kakhulu.
Firstly, the kitchen light is very bright.
Ubona ngisho impukane idlula.
You can even see a fly passing.
Lena ususpect number 2 ngambona kahle futhi ngalesi sikhathi mangiqala ngithatha icrash ngimbheka. Ngambona okokuqala mayise passage ngase ngizomshaya ngecrash ngangizama ukumshaya ebusweni.
And I saw the suspect number 2 and I looked at him. I first saw him in the passage, and when I took the crutch, I wanted to hit him in the face.
Now, and bear with me, your best educated guess in terms of time, was it a minute, was it seconds, when you looked into his face, as you state?
Uma nje ungaqagela ke sikhuluma lana ngomzuzu sikhuluma ke ngama seconds uma ungathi nje umbhekile ebusweni.
Ngambona kahle into engayibhekanga nje ukuthi isikhathi mhlawumbe ngabe ukuthi 10 minutes ufa cha angibhekanga konke lokho kodwa ukumbona yena ngambona kahle.
I looked at him well and I saw him well and I can still recall or remember him, but the only thing that I didn't look at was the time as to how long I looked at him.
Like I said, I'll come to that in greater detail when we do identification in terms of the ID kit and the ID parade. But in fact, let me leave it for that because I'll touch for it in greater detail. Now, for completeness sake, in that hectic situation where there's a firearm, there's danger, the following persons: Mtokozi Sitwala, Tumelo Madala, Khumalo, the deceased, I know, leave the deceased, and Kelly. Kelly, your mother, Tumelo Madala, and Mtokozi Sitwala. What role did they play in the fight that was happening in the kitchen?
Kuleso simo leso ke esasinomgozi ke phakathi kukhona isibhamu uma wakho uKelly uTumelo asimike kuMufi umthokozisi yini ke ababekwenza bona ke kulolo kokulwisana okwakukhona lapho ekitchen.
Wonke umuntu owayelaphana wayezama ukushaya ngandlela thize ayaziyo kodwa mina ngesingami mina ngifinyelelanga.
Each and every person that was there was trying in whichever way that the person possible to that person to assault, but I myself I couldn't, or I didn't succeed.
And in that confined space, and if we look, sink to the cupboard where there's a yellowish bucket, I'm not sure what that side is, or is it 2 sinks, I'm not sure. You are saying that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that is the 6 of you that were in the house, the adults, including yourself and the deceased and the other 4 that I counted, and the 2 suspects at the door, managed to cramp in and fit in that space for that fight.
Uthi ke bonke labantu ababaliwe laphayana laba u6 ke wasebasho nabanye laba ababalile ukuthi nonke ke nani lapha kulesa space esincane esisibonayo khona lapha.
Mengikhuluma ngabantu laba engibaziyo mina akekho wayesidudla, so sonke salingana lapha.
If I'm making reference or speaking about the people, those that I know, no one is usually built or is fat, so all of us fitted in there.
Now, your testimony is that at some stage during this fight that's happening in the kitchen, a gunshot goes off, correct?
Shilo ukuthi kona ke lokho kwakwenzeka ke basiqhuma isibhamu.
Yebo kunjalo.
Yes, that's correct.
When this gunshot goes off, what was the relative position of the deceased and the person with the dreadlocks? What was their relative position at that time, not during the fight now? At the time the gunshot goes off.
Ngalesikhathi ke seqhuma isibhamu ke yena umufi kanye ke nalona ke onama dreadlocks ke bona ke babe isimo sababe kanjani ke ngokumali nokuthi babe ngokuma kwabo ke omunye komunye babe kanjani babu kanjani isimo sabo.
Njengoba bese ngishilo phambilini ukuthi babelela isibhamu bobabili bereslela isibhamu ngaleso sikhathi. Nangaleso sikhathi nje ubungibuza babe lokhu belwela isibhamu beqhubeke njalo.
As I've already mentioned that they were wrestling for the firearm, both of them, and even at that time when the firearm went off, they were in that process of wrestling for the firearm.
Let me clarify it for you. My aim is not to confuse you. Let's start where we started. Where the Mark II is at with the circle, we agreed that was the gentleman with the dreadlocks, correct?
Sishilo ukuthi la kuno-2 khona ilaba kume khona lo ama dreadlocks angithi.
Yebo njalo.
Yes.
And in front of him and involved in a tussle as well for the firearm is the deceased, correct?
Phambi kwakhe ke bewisana ngesibhamu kwakuwumufi.
Yebo njalo.
Yes, that's correct.
Now my question simply is this. When the firearm, the gunshot goes off, are they still in that position that you described it?
Engikubuzayo ukuthi ngalesikhathi ke isibhamu sesiqhuma babe sekule yandawo ke le ubusushilo ukuthi babe mikuyona.
Ngokukhumbula kwami kunjalo.
As far as I can recall, yes.
And at the time this gunshot goes off, did you see the firearm at that stage?
Ngalesikhathi isibhamu siqhuma wasibona ngaleso sikhathi leso isibhamu.
Eqinisweni amehla ilokho egijima yonke indawo. So angeke ngisho ukuthi ngasibona mesiqhuma, cha ngezwa ngenhlansi eyangishaya phansi ngasizwa sona. Being honest, the eyes were all running all over the place. I wouldn't say that at that time I saw the firearm, but I just heard it when it went off and the spark that hit me.
Now I want you to clarify for me, because there's an aspect yesterday of your testimony that I did not quite get correctly. You'll tell me if I'm wrong. Let me just put it according to how I put it in my notes. You said that you saw a spark when the gunshot went off, and then you then were hit by a shrapnel, correct? Or a piece of something. I'm not sure. I can't put a name on it.
Uzosho ke uma ngaba indlela engiyibhale ngayo ke noma engizwe ngayo ke ingasiyona ke uthe wabona ke ispark uma isibhamu siqhuma ke wase wezwa ke into ekushayayo.
Cha awuzwanga kahle advocate. Ngithe mina isibhamu saqhuma ngezwe into eshaya phansi and then ngezwa inhlansi eyangishaya unyaweni.
No, you didn't hear me correctly, advocate. I said that the firearm went off. I then heard something that hit the floor, and then I felt a spark that hit my foot.
Oh, that's exactly what I wanted to come to, because unfortunately my first name is Sipho, but I'm not Zulu, so I don't understand the language. So the point that I'm trying to get is this: the spark that you saw was not from the fire, the gun as it fired. That's what I want to get.
Engifuna ukuthola ukuthi ispark leso wasibona sasingaphumi was not from there.
Was not from the firearm as it was shot. Remember, when let me clarify, parents.
Yeah.
When a firearm is shot, normally, especially at night, you'll see what they call a muzzle flash. That is the burnt particles that come at the barrel of the firearm. So that's what I wanted to tell. Is that the spark that she saw, or a spark when the bullet hits the floor?
Uthi ke okwenjayelo ke uma isibhamu siqhuma akhona ke akubizayo na njengomazili okuphumayo ngalesikhathi uma siqhuma yiloko okubonile noma wena ukhuluma ngale spark lesi saloko okushaya phansi.
Bengishilo phambilini ngathi asikho ispark engisibonile. Ngizwe kushaya phansi, into eshaya phansi ngase ngizwa ispark esingishaya onyaweni. Akukho ngibonile.
As I said previously, I never said that, or there's no spark that I saw. The firearm went off, and then I heard something that hit the floor, and then the spark that hit my foot.
I'm not going to belabor that point because I was confused by this word in class, because in Setswana we say kasi. The kasi is a spark. So that's what confused me, but let's leave it at that. Now, your testimony is that upon this gunshot going off, yourself and Tumelo Madlala ran off, yourself in the bathroom and Tumelo Madlala in some bedroom respectively, correct?
Fakazi bakushilo ke ukuthi uma siqhuma ke sithe noma sithe uma siqhuma leso sibhamu wena noTumelo nasenbaleka ke wena wangena bathroom uTumelo ke wangena kwenye ikamera.
Kunjalo.
Yes, that's correct.
And just in I'm not taking it step by step as you took it, but further that whilst you were in the bathroom, you had a second and a third gunshot going off, correct?
Ushilo ke ukuthi inkathi use bathroom wezwa isibhamu siqhuma kwesibili wasizwa futhi siqhuma nokwesithathu.
Yebo kunjalo.
Yes, that's correct.
And in fact, if I understood your testimony correctly, is that the second shot, the first shot and the second shot were of the same loudness, and the third one was not as loud as the first two, correct?
Uma ngikuzwe kahle kushilo ukuthi lesi sokuqala nalesi sesibili ke indlela ke saqhuma ngayo ke kwakungokufana ke kodwa ke lesi esesithathu sona ke asiqhumanga ngokufanayo nalesi sokuqala nesesibili.
Kunjalo.
That's correct.
Now, and then just for clarification purposes and completeness sake, those second and third gunshots, according to your testimony, you testified that they were both emanating from the vicinity of the kitchen area, correct?
Ushilo ukuthi nalesi sesibili nesesithathu noma sesiqhuma kwesibili nekwesithathu nalapho sasiqhuma sibuya ekitchen.
Yebo kunjalo.
Yes, that's correct.
Now, also now to clarify this for me, it's a point, but it's a quick point to pass on. In the bathroom, between the bathtub and the basin, I just wanted to find out the position that you were at, because yesterday I was conflicted between the two because I couldn't hear you clearly. Were you squatting or kneeling in that position?
La phakathi kwebathtub kanye nayo ke ibasin angikuzusanga kahle ke ukuthi wawuguqe ngamadolo noma wawusquattile.
Ngikwenze kokubili.
I did both.
Okay, let me track back. I'll keep on doing that, so indulge me. How long? Let's go back to the kitchen. I'm going back to the kitchen now. How long did the fight in the kitchen take place from the time when the two suspects are bundled together, they end up where they ended up, the fight ensues, and the first shot, the first gunshot goes off? What was the time duration?
Isikhathi okwasithatha kusukela nkathi ke njengoba ushilo ukuthi nasukuma nonke ke nase nibadudula bobabili ke ngasikhathi esodwa. Isikhathi kwasithatha ukuthi nibadudule nibase kitchen ke kwakhona loka okulwa ukhona ekitchen kwaze kwaqhuma isibhamu siqhuma okokuqala ukuthi kukonke lokho kwathatha isikhathi kwakuyisikhathi esingakanani.
Njengoba bese ngishilo phambilini ukuthi isikhathi into yokugcina uyibhekayo.
As I've already said previously that time is the last thing that you look at.
especially futhi makwenzeka into enjena kwesinye isikhathi ufile ngathi kuthatha isikhathi eside ngoba kuningi okwenzakalayo kwesinye isikhathi ufile ngathi kusheshile so angizange isibheke isikhathi okwangempela.
And especially when something of this nature happens, at times it feels like it takes a long time, at times it feels like it's quick. So I didn't look at the time.
I understand that, and it's a normal reaction. But what I'm trying to say now, borrowing from your word, the feeling that you had, was it, did it feel like it took longer or it took shorter?
Kanye-ke kube kuqeda ukusho-ke ukuthi ngesinye isikhathi ngathi isikhathi eside, ngesinye isikhathi ngathi isikhathi esifishane. Kuwena-ke kwakuzwakala ngathi kuthatha isikhathi eside noma kusheshile.
Lo mbuzo unzima kakhulu ngoba kuyashintshashintshana. Sometimes njengoba bese ngishilo ukuthi ufile ngathi kusheshile, kwesinye isikhathi ufile ngathi kuthatha isikhathi eside, especially makuyinda into ebuhlungu kanjeyana.
That question it's a difficult one because, as I've already said, that it interchanges. At times it feels like it took long. At times it feels like it was very quick, especially in such a hurtful situation.
Now, let me jump back now. You are squatting or kneeling in the bathroom. I just want to see where the weight is. Now, I see a bluish object, and obviously from there, I won't see the basin. But just for clarification purposes for me, because I couldn't understand yesterday because you were emotional at times, where were you kneeling or squatting in relation to that picture that's on the screen now?
Musebenzisa lesi sithombe ke ngathi wawunyile kuphi noma uguqe kuphi noma usquate kuphi.
Asiqale la le ibasin.
Let's start here. That's the basin where the witness is pointed. That's the basin.
And then la kunesikhala esincane okwazi ukuma khona mhlawumbe mawugeza amazinyo noma ugeza izandla.
And there's a little space there where you are able to stand when you are brushing your teeth or you are washing your hands.
So ngangime khona kuleso sikhala lesi esijwayele ukusebenzisa masigeza izandla noma sigeza amazinyo.
So I was standing in that gap that we usually make use of when we're brushing our teeth or washing our hands.
Let's look at photo 22 as well. If I look at, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, the space that you refer to where you normally would wash your teeth or hands or whatever on the basin seems to be facing the door that is on your right as I stand here, correct?
Lesi space okhuluma ngaso engathi ke sibheke umnyango wakho uthi la ame khona ke ozoba se right.
Cha akunjalo.
No, that's not true.
Ayibhekile emnyango.
The basin is not facing the door.
Mawuvula umnyango ibasin ibheke kanje. So mawuvula umnyango ibasin ibhekile.
If you open the door, as the witness is indicating, the basin is facing that side.
And perhaps let's go back to 21 again, photo 21. Now that door, to which direction does it close? The bathroom door.
Uvalekela kuphi ngakuphi le mnyango le?
Uvalekela nga mawuthi uvalekela mawuvula uvulela ngaphakathi.
When you open to the inside.
Yeah.
Okay, you close, it comes to me.
To you, please.
Now, I'm going to, with regard to that, you are in the bathroom, the gunshots have occurred, it has quietened down, and your testimony now is that you then peep through the bathroom door to ascertain what is still going on where the gunshots were coming from, correct?
Ushilo ke ukuthi ungaphakathi ebathroom laqhuma ke isibhamu kwase kuyathula ke wase uyapopola ngawo umnyango lo wase bathroom ubheka ukuthi kwenzakalani.
Yebo kunjalo.
Yes, that's correct.
Now, your testimony is that as you peep through, you see the deceased going towards the dining room. Is that how you put it? Because I couldn't hear some of your testimony yesterday.
Ushilo ke ukuthi uthe uma upopola unjalo ke wambona ke umufi uthe ekhokhoba ya uthe wambona ke ekhokhoba eya ngase dining room uthe ke akazwanga kahle into kuyisho noma ubufakazi bakho.
Yebo kunjalo.
Yes, that's correct.
And according to your testimony, if I understood it well as well, is that as he's going towards the dining room, he's coming from the kitchen area, correct?
Uya dining room usuka ngase kitchen.
Yebo kunjalo.
That's correct, yes.
Then your testimony further is that shortly then you see Kelly following the deceased, correct?
Wasubona uKelly emlandela?
Yebo kunjalo.
Yes.
Then shortly thereafter your mom also
Was
following
my
them,
blended.
correct?
Yebo kunjalo.
Yes, that's correct.
And then also you then see the first suspect, the one with the dreadlocks, also following towards the direction where the three of them had gone, correct?
Wasubona nalo oqala ke umsolwa ebalandela.
Yebo kunjalo.
Yes, that's correct.
And that Kelly Khumalo stood behind the deceased and your mom was next to them at the couch in the vicinity of the corner of the couch and the TV stand, correct?
uKelly emuva kwakhe umufi uma wakho yena ke emiduze nabo ke kodwa ke eceleni kwe couch ekhoneni ye couch eduze ne TV stand.
Yebo kunjalo.
Yes, that's correct.
And finally, you say your testimony is that Kelly's cellular phone, the S4, was at the time charging and it was on the TV stand. If I understood you well, is that correct?
Manguzwe kahle ke uthi S4 yakhe uKelly yayi ku TV stand i-charge khona lapha.
Bengithe izolo mengikhuluma ukuthi angisakhumbuli noma ibiphezulu sofa ku armrest noma ibisestanding ngoba indawo esiyisebenzisayo lezo nesicharge.
If I remember well, what I said yesterday was I can't remember whether it was on the couch, on the armrest, or on the stand, because those were the two places that we were using when charging.
Be that as it may, you testify that your mother then takes that phone off the charger, Kelly's phone, correct?
Wasuthi ke uma wase eyikhipha noma ethatha ke leyo phone leyo kaKelly kwi-charge.
Ngambona seyiphethe yebo ukuthi kuyithathe phezulu kwe-armrest noma phezulu kwe-stand angimbonanga ngoba wayibhekile.
When I saw her, she had it. As to whether she took it from the stand or the armrest, I didn't see that because she was facing that way.
And if I understood you well, you say when your mother takes that phone, it somehow fell on the sofa or on the couch. Is that my understanding of that aspect of your testimony?
Ingabe ngizwe kahle yini uma uthi yase iwa kwele sofa?
Engushilo ukuthi yathathwa ezandleni zakhe. Ususpect number 1 mayimshaya and then wayithatha ifone umama iyeke bambisiswa.
What I said was it was taken from her hand, when suspect number 1 hit her, witness indicating with an elbow, hit her, then he took her from her hand.
And that's the question that I was going next to, that you say you saw the first suspect with dreadlocks hitting your mom with an elbow and taking that phone, correct?
Umbonile umemshaya uma wakho ngendololwane ethatha leyo phone.
Yebo ngiyambona.
Yes, I saw it.
I'll come to this aspect when I deal with your previous and inconsistent statements. Now, I'm going to jump the issue of going to the hospital and all of that. Now, as now it's quieting down, the suspects are all gone. You go to seek for help.
Sekuthuleke manje abasolwa abasekho ke wase uhamba ke uyobheka usizo.
Yebo mjani.
Yes, that's correct.
You go and seek for help because you say you tried to call 10111, but you couldn't for some reason. What was the reason thereof?
Ushilo ke wathi wazama ke ukuthi ufonele u10111 kodwa ke awuzama ukuphumelela. Kwakuyini ebangela lokho noma eyabangela lokho?
Njengoba sengishilo ukuthi ingqondo ya freezer hayi ukuthi u10111 angikwazi ngiyawazi. Kodwa ngaleso sikhathi ngoba kuningi okwakwenzeka ngavele ngafreezer ngangazi noma ngidayile noma ngenza njani.
As I've already said that my mind just froze. Know that I don't know 10111. I do know 10111, but at that time I didn't know whether to dial or not.
But you are with Kelly and your mother in that sitting room. Why don't you give the phone to one of them to call for assistance?
Kodwa ke wawukanye nayo uKelly noma lapho e-sitting room bathini ke ukuthi unganikeza omunye wabo ukuthi ke asize.
Nabo babekhala ngabona ukuthi nabo kusho ukuthi bakule position efana neyami so ngafuna umuntu sober minded.
They were also crying. I then realized that they were in the same position that I was in, so I looked for someone who was sober minded.
Now your evidence is that you go over to Mapiri's house, but before you get there, there's a car parked on the street belonging to Ntabiseng, whom you described as a relative of Mapiri, correct?
Wase uya ke kwa Mapiri kodwa ke uthe uma uya kwa Mapiri wabona ke kunale moto emi estradedi yakhe uNthabiseng oyisihlobo sakhe ke uMapiri.
Yebo mjani.
Yes, that's correct.
Now, at that time, in your frantic state, why did you not ask Ntabiseng, because she is known to you, and scream that there has been an issue or a problem in the house, that she must immediately summon help?
Kwenzeka kanjani ke ukuthi uNthabiseng ngeke ungaceli kuyena usizo nanjengomuntu omaziyo ke uNthabiseng umtshele ukuthi khona okwenzekile ucela akusize.
uNthabiseng asinalo akujwayelana ngalo ndlela kodwa uMaphiri umngani kama.
We not that used to each other or close with Ntabiseng, but Mapiri is my mother's friend.
And ujwayele ukuze ekhaya ngaso sonke isikhathi.
And she is used to coming to our house all the time.
Ingqondo yangisa kuyena.
So my mind took me to her.
Accept that. My Lord, with leave of the court, I'm going to ask for 10 minutes because I'm changing exhibits and my bigger document is on the other side, my Lord. And I need to sort out exhibits that I'm going to ask questions.
You have 10 minutes for that?
Yes, my Lord.
Mr. Baloyi, where are the exhibits?
It's a
I think they are on just on the other
crate.
side.
They are where?
No?
They're in the crate, my
Just
Lord.
on the other side.
Stacks of files on the crate on the other
They're on
side.
the floor.
Yes.
No, you can go and take them.
My Lord, I have to peruse one by
No,
one.
you can take them. I thought you were going to take them at Pretoria Square.
Then, my Lord, I'm going to ask because I was wondering this morning whether to lay them down here so that it's easier for me to do as members of the press, my Lord. So, hence I requested 10 minutes. Just now.
You want to take them all out, or you take them one at a time, one at a time, one at a time. Or you're laying them all. There were 12 exhibits, as I remember reading. Mr. Baloyi, how many exhibits were there? 12 was.
Okay, in the previous talk.
Yeah.
No, there were lots. There were lots.
So you want to take them one by one, or you want them all to be strewn around there?
My Lord, for the sake of brevity, so that each time I don't beg for any indulgence to go again.
So you need 10 minutes. Okay,
Yes.
fine. Come back in 10 minutes. Okay, yes. Answer?
Sikhumbuzeke ukuthi usephansi kwaso isifungo sithathile.
Yes.
Understood.
Yes, sir.
My Lord, I'm indebted to the court.
Thank you.
Now, ma'am, if I ask you of a person named Tamsanga Gabuza, do you know that who that person is?
Uma ngakubuza ngoThamsanqa Gabuza, uyamazi lo muntu lo?
Ngimazi umngani kaSenzo.
I know him as Senzo's friend.
Have you met Tamsanga Gabuza before?
Useke wahlangana naye ngaphambilini uThamsanqa Gabuza.
Yebo, uSenzo benokummema mhlambe makunento encane esizenzayo endlini.
Yes, Senzo used to invite him when we had some little ceremonies or things that we would have at home.
So in terms of familiarity, would I be correct to say he was just an acquaintance to you?
Uma ngingathi kuwe kwakuwumuntu nje omjwayele.
Engimazi ngokumbona yebo.
That is correct, yes.
Now, this gentleman, Mr. Gabuza, has made a statement in this matter, and I just want to read to you only one paragraph from that statement, and I just need your comment on it, correct?
Yena ke uThamsanqa Gabuza une statement ke awasenza mayelana leqala leli ke kunomuntu nje owodwa engifisa ukuthi ngikufundele wona.
Where did he make that statement, sir?
Sorry, my lord.
Where did he make that statement? Who attested the statement?
I'll go to
Have you laid the basis for introducing that statement?
My lord,
Yebo.
it's a statement that's been discovered by us.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's coming to-
I don't know any statement.
Yes.
That's why I'm asking you this question.
Indeed, sorry, my lord, it's me who didn't clarify it. It's
Yeah.
a state witness that was disclosed to us.
That's
now.
it, fine. Okay.
And also is in the list, my lord, of witness, list of
Okay,
witness
fine.
statements. May I proceed, my lord, then
Yes,
to
yes,
read
yes.
the said paragraph? It's paragraph 5 thereof, my lord, and it states, I can also state that at certain times, Senzo told me before he died that
There's a question, please, my lord. We want to object to that to this question. It's based on hearsay, and the question would be unfair. We strongly object to that.
Mr. Baloyi says you want to introduce hearsay evidence.
exception to hearsay, my lord.
Hello?
Exception to hearsay.
Yeah, there is an exception. Section 3 of
Yes.
Act 45 of 1988. I know all that.
Yes.
But he is saying you can't introduce that evidence because that statement says, Senzo told me that. Is that what you're saying, actually?
Indeed, my lord.
That's it. Evidence Act number 45 of 1988. How do you introduce hearsay evidence?
Sorry, my lord.
Yeah.
My lord, will mull over it. That will not be fair to the witness at this point in time.
Okay.
Now, Ms. Khumalo, you testified that you attended in a session whereby you met with the sketch artist to compile the ID kit for the persons that you saw at the incident on the 26th of October 2014, correct?
Akasoze basabuza ke ngestatement kodwa ke ushilo ke kubufakazi bakho ukuthi ke kukhona ke la owaya khona ke la owahlangana khona ke nomuntu owayedweba ke noma owayezodweba la okwakushiwo khona ke ukuthi ulekelele ngokudweba abantu labo othi wababona endlini ngaleli yalanga.
Yebo njalo.
Yes, that's correct.
And if you recall, relative to the incident happening in October 2014, when did you meet with Mrs. Warrant Officer Steenkamp?
Yena ke uwarrant officer Steenkamp lona ke kwakuyena ke owaye conductor lokho ngokumayela nesehlakalo ke kwenzeka nini lokho ukuthi uhlangane naye warrant officer Steenkamp emuva kwesehlakalo?
Sathi mase siqeda ukubhala i-statement ngelanga lesibili emva kwesehlakalo, and then sasuka kuleli room le-statement sasesiswa kuleli room lokuthi sikwazi ukusiza ukudweba.
It was on the day of the making of the statements, when we were done with the making or the giving of the statements, we were then taken to this other room to go and assist with the drawing of the identity kit.
Now, with respect to meeting up with Mrs. Warrant Officer Steenkamp, the purpose thereof essentially was to compile ID kits for the persons that you say in your evidence were suspects number 1 and 2, correct?
Injongo ke yalokho ukuthi uhlangane na nokuthi nihlangane naye ke warrant officer Steenkamp kwakuwukuthi ke kudwetshwe ke labo bantu labo othi kwakuyibona ke abangena endlini ngalela langa ngithi. Yes, that's correct.
And with respect to accused number 1, suspect number 1, you've already stated the things that you added on that ID kit because other people had already done some features on the sketch, correct?
Ubusushilo ukuthi kuloyo qala ushilo ke izolo ukuthi yini owayi-eda wena ke ngoba abanye vele babe sebeqalile angithi kulowo qala.
Yebo kunjalo.
Yes, that's correct.
Now, with respect to suspect number 1, I'm not going to ask you questions because it's not my client, but regarding the second suspect, and I'm going to read, my lord, this is the statement of a warrant officer, Amanda Steenkamp of LCRC, Proteat Lane, Medan robbery. Now, I'm going to read only the aspect that touches on you regarding the second suspect. And she says, and I read, the second witness was Kelly's sister, Zandile Khumalo. That is yourself, correct?
Uthi ke laphana owesibili ke udadebo Kelly uZandile wena lo wangithi.
Yebo kunjalo.
Yes, that's correct.
And then she further states she told a similar version and gave a similar profile and facial description of suspect A. That is the first suspect that I said I'm not going to touch on.
Do you have an extra one?
Page 4.
Page 4.
Yeah, at page 4.
Okay, I'm there.
The first paragraph is where she introduces herself, and there's the main paragraph, the third paragraph, the smaller paragraph where it starts with the second witness is, you see that, Mr. Jonas? On page 4.
Just sorry, my lord, sorry. Apologies, ma'am. Yes, I can see that, sir.
Okay, let's start again. Warrant Officer Steenkamp reads this regarding the second suspect, and she says, the second witness was Kelly's sister, Zandile Khumalo. She told a similar version and gave a similar profile and facial description of suspect A. The only feature she adds was the eyebrows. She saw the eyebrows when suspect A lost his headgear during the scuffling with the deceased. And then the important part is that she says she could not describe the second suspect.
Akubhalile ke lana warrant officer Steenkamp ukuthi owesibili ufakazi kwakuZandile Khumalo washo ke number 1 ke zake okufanayo ke futhi emchaza ke ngokufanayo nangobuso ususpect A. Futhi ke kuphela nje into awayifake kwakuyiwona ke amashiya wawabona ke amashiya uma ngabe ususpect A noma umsolwa uA kuwa ke isigqoko sakhe ngalesikhathi ke ayelwisana ngaso nomufi akakwazanga ke noma azange akwazi ke ukuthi amchaze umsolwa wesibili. Uthi ke yiloko akubalekile akufundela kona yiloko ogcina ukuthi akazange akwazi ukuthi amchaze umsolwa wesibili.
What is your comment on that? Because the police specialist says whatever you testified in court about the features that you testified about here in court, she says you didn't describe what you say is the second suspect at the scene, whom you now dog identified as accused number 2.
Manje ke ufisa ukwazi ke ukuthi uthini ke ngalokho okubhalwa la iphoyisa ke ukuthi nanjengoba lana enkantolo umchazileke wathi accused number 2 wabe usumchasa ke nama features kodwa yena la akubhalile ukuthi cha akuzange kwenzeke nje ngathi owawunaye ke umlekelela ukudweba.
Engifuna ukuthi ukwazi ukuthi ngaleso sikhathi sasi under a lot of shock. Ezinye izinto zibuye emva kwesikhathi.
What I
ingqondo iyabuya ukhumbule kancane kancane izinto zihlangana.
What I would like you to know is that under that during that time we were under a shock or too much shock, and that after some time you would then regain, in other words you would then recall, things come back bit by bit and you are able to recall.
Futhi njengoba sengingene la ecourt ngithema ngiphosa amehlo lapha umzimba wami nespirit sami konke ingqondo kwabuya kwahlala lapha.
And when I came into court, everything, my mind, my body, my spirit just came back and I saw him.
I hear what you're saying, but you didn't answer my question. My question is simply this: do you admit or not that you did not tell warrant officer Steenkamp the features that you now testified about in this court as those matching the second intruder that you identified as the second accused?
Kodwa ke umbuzo wami wona ke awukawuphendula uyavuma yini noma awuvumi ukuthi kuyena ke uwarrant officer Steenkamp lama features owachazile ke la enkantolo nanjengoba umchaza ke uthi uyena ukuthi kuyena ke awuzange wachaza lawo ma features lawo.
Engicela futhi ukuthi ukwazi ukuthi ngathi mangena mina laphana ezinye izinto zaseyifakiwe already abanye bese bebefike khona laphana. Mina ngase ngifika ngifaka lokho okunye nokunye engibona ukuthi ikona engikukhumbulayo.
The other thing that I would like you to know is that when I went into that room, the others had already given the features, so I just added that which I saw that was still outstanding.
Okwesibili futhi ukuthi bangibonisa sona isithombe sasaye umsolo lo ngasibona futhi ngakholwa ukuthi ngempela uyena.
And the other thing is that they showed me a picture or a photo of the suspect, and I was satisfied and I could see that it was him.
Ingakho futhi ngakedanga okunye elokho bese ngisho.
And which is why I did not add the other.
Ma'am, yes or no? Let's cut this chase. Yes or no? You did not give warrant officer Steenkamp those features that you testified about in court, correct?
Uyebo noma cha ukuthi lama features owachazile la enkantolo awuzange uwachaze kuyena uwarrant officer Steenkamp.
Bese kukhona ingakho ngasingazange ngisachaza.
It was already there, which is why I did not mention it or say it.
I'll take that as a no.
Ngizothi ke no law.
Kuwena nalapha.
That's up to you.
Now, what you added with Ms. Steenkamp with respect to the second suspect was you put a mustache that you described that it runs across the mouth, both four corners of the mouth, right?
Into owayichaza ke noma owayifaka kuyena uwarrant officer Steenkamp ubushilo ke wathi ke kwaku nentshebe ke eyayi jikelezile noma la emlonyeni.
And also you added only height and complexion, correct?
Wase futhi ongeza ke height yakhe kanye futhi ke nokuthi ukanjani noma ke ibala lakhe complexion yakhe.
Yebo kunjalo.
Yes, that's correct.
And I can go to that. I didn't want to do that exercise, but I can go to that. In all the statements, if I remind you, and we can go back to that, you've never ever to the police from the 27th of October 2017 until the 18th when you made your last statement, you made 3 statements. to the police. You've never ever given them the facial features of the person that you say was the second suspect.
Kuzo zonke ke itatimende ke owazenza kuze 2017 kwaze yoba yi18 ke la wenza khona ke istatement sakho sokugcina ke awukaze unikeze ngawona ama features, the features,
the facial features.
Okay, ama features la obuso ke la owachazile kuzo zonke itatimende zakho awuwachazanga.
Okokuqala istatement njengoba sengishilo istatement sokuqala esasenza yebo umuntu wayengaphansi kokuthuka nakho konke lokho, but esesibili i-additional statement kwakuyimbuzo uphendula umbuzo, so if lo mbuzo awufikanga kumina bengeza ukuphendula.
Firstly,
ngawutholanga lapho.
The first statement was when one was still shocked or under shock, and the second statement or the additional statement then, it was a question would be posed, and then I would then answer. If that question then never reached me, or that question was never posed to me, then I would not get to that.
I get that, but on the 27th of October 2014, when you made that statement, the police were empathizing with you and the people that were in the house. That means they were not harsh on you, correct?
Okay, 27 October.
So I don't know what the basis is for, for the question.
I'll withdraw the question, Manado. Then let's go to the other aspect, which is the ID parade that you identified, that you attended, at GP SAPS regarding the first suspect that was arrested in this matter.
Aseke manje kwi-ID parade owayakuyona ke eyayise-GP mayela ke nomsolo ke owoqala owaboshwa ke eboshwa kulona leli cala.
And before I even go there, let me ask you this question. The person that you allege to be the second suspect, you've never seen that person before prior to 26 October 2014, correct?
Lo muntu omchaze nanjengomsolwa wesibili ke noma ke omchaze nanjenga lo umsolwa wesibili umuntu ongakaze wambona ngaphambi kwaleli yalanga lange-26 October 2014.
Yebo kunjani.
That's correct.
Now, regarding, and my learned colleagues from my left will agree, and excuse me for asking this question. You've never ever attended an ID parade pertaining to accused number 1 to 5, correct?
Awukaze waya kwi-ID parade accused number 1 ukuyofika number 5.
Yebo kunjani.
That's correct, yes.
And now let me quickly move to the ID parade in GP, SAPS in Joburg. That lineup had, you said yesterday, I don't want to put words into your mouth, it had many male persons on the lineup, correct?
Ushilo ke ukuthi ushiliso lomufakaza ke ukuthi leyo parade leyo ke yayinabantu besilisa ke abaningi ke ababemi khona lapho.
Yebo kunjani.
That's correct, yes.
And having done that process, entered the room where the persons are lined up, you see them through a two-way mirror. You then asked, because you suspected a particular person, you then asked for that person to be brought forward closer to the mirror so that you can look at them properly, correct?
Ushilo ke ukuthi kwakunalona ke owawusola ke noma ke owawumsola noma owawumqhathanisa ke wase ucela ke ukuthi loyo muntu loyo ke bamsondeze ukuthi umbonele eduze.
Yebo kunjani.
Yes, that's correct.
Now, yesterday, your testimony was that at that identity parade, you did not identify anyone, correct?
Ushilo ke izolo kubufakazi bakho ukuthi kuleyo ID parade akekho umuntu owamkhomba.
Cha, akekho impela engamkhomba.
No, indeed, there's no one that I identified.
My Lord, I've got in front of me an SAP 329, which is an identity.
What?
SAP.
Yeah, it's a parade document.
Yes, yes.
I know all these things.
Yes.
So what about it?
Yeah, I was just, in case my lord will ask me where am I taking this from.
Yeah.
Uh,
It serves as an exhibit, my lord.
Yeah, okay, fine.
Now, the person that conducted the ID parade says, and I'm going to quote in the results section of that document. It says, and in quotations, number 2, come to the front, closed quotations. That's what you asked for, correct?
Wabuza uthi ke ngendlela abhale ngayo laphayana wena wacela ke wathi number 2 akezwe phambili.
And then from
Yes.
there, it says, you identified / said who was wearing a brown jacket, t-shirt, and a black jean.
On page.
Sorry, Mr. On page 3. So, Mr. Jonas. Where does a witness? No, not page 3. Sorry, Mr. Jonas. On page 4, where it says witness Zandile Khumalo, language Zulu,
Yes,
and
yes.
all of that.
Yes.
So I was reading at the 8th slag or the results section.
Just read me, just read, it's fine.
If I may read again, at the results section, it starts with open quotations and it says, number 2, come to the front, close quotations, and I asked the witness whether that was her request according to what's written there.
Kwakuyisicelo sakho lesi ngalendlela ebhalwe ngaso la number 2 was phambili.
Yebo kunjalo.
Yes, that's correct.
And then now, as part of that results section, it says, you identified / said who was wearing a brown jacket, a t-shirt, and a black jean. That's what it says. So you identified somebody contrary to what you told the court yesterday.
So slash seat someone's name slash seat.
Yes, slash
Okay.
said.
Please, I don't think it's correct. The witness did say she identified someone and said that person, who she identified as the as number 2, or was wearing the tag with number 2, had similar features as the second suspect.
Okay, I'll then leave it, my lord. Now, let's.
Persisting with that.
I'm not
You're
going
not
to.
wrong. Okay.
Yes, I'm withdrawing that question, my lord.
Okay. But is that what the policeman wrote?
Yes.
How he was about police away.
Sorry, my lord.
He was about police away.
No, I don't, my lord.
Okay.
Now, we were at this juncture, me and you, of the dog identification of accused number 2, right? And my question was that prior to the 26th of October, you've never met him, we were past that stage, correct?
Bese sidlulile ke la uthi khona ngaphambi kwe26 kwakumuntu ongakazi umbone.
Yebo kunjalo.
That's correct, yes.
And we've also agreed that okay, let's leave that. Now, accused number 3 was arrested on the 16th of June 2020 on this matter.
Number 3.
Accused number 2 was arrested on the 16th of June 2020 on this matter.
16
Did-
June 2020.
And he appeared in court on the 27th of October 2020.
Okay. Okwenzekayo ke lana umsolo wakhe wesibili ukuboshwa kwakhe ke eboshelwa lelicala leli waboshwa zi16 June 2020 wase umevele enkantolo ke wavela nge27 zika October 2020. Yes.
Did the police call you to come to an ID parade arranged for the purposes of identifying him?
Ingabe akufonela yini noma akubiza yini amaphoyisa ukuthi uzeke kwi-ID parade ngokuthi uzokhomba yena?
Cha.
No.
And for completeness sake, do you know whether or not the ID parade regarding specifically accused number 2, whether the ID parade was held?
Ingabe uya
How would the witness know?
Let's
She
make it.
says she never attended any parade after
Oh,
that.
I'll withdraw that, my lord. Now, the person that you identified as the second suspect, did that person have any special features or characteristics that were impressed on you at the scene on the 26th of October 2014?
lo muntu owam identified njengo suspect number 2 ingaba yini kunama features ongathi ke iwona ke awahlala ke kwena owakhumbulayo ke ngalela langa langa i26 zika October 2014?
Angikho sure ukuthi ngiyawu-understand umbuzo ngicela ukuphinde.
I'm
Did
not
he have-
sure. I think
For example, there'll be people with, like you described, the first suspect, big eyes, protruding eyes, your contours, whatever. Now, this second suspect, that they
futhi ama contours manje ubuza ngalona ke owesibili ke owamchaza nanjengo suspect wesibili ukuthi ngaleli yalanga leli umbona ngalanga i26 ka October 2014 akhona yini ama features othi la ama features ahlala kumina angeke ngiwakhohlwe ngimkhumbula ngawo?
Ngikhumbula ubuso bonke njengoba bunjalo.
I remember
Ngikhumbule
sorry.
i-height yakhe, ngikhumbule nomzimba wakhe.
I remember the whole face as is, his height as well as his body.
now, well, accused number 2 and the rest of his co-accused, they are arrested, but let me be specific about accused number 2. Like I say, he's arrested 16 June 2020. Did the cops, sorry to use colloquial in court, did the police come and tell you that we've arrested new suspects on that matter?
Nanjengoba bese ngishilo ke kwena ukuthi ukuboshwa kwakhe ke umsolo wesibili waboshwa ziwu16 kuJune 2020. Ingabe eza kuwena yini amaphoyisa azothi sesibophe abasolwa abasha?
Cha, abezanga kumina into nje engayizwe endabeni.
No, they didn't come to me, but it's something I overheard over the news.
When did you overhear that on the news? The same month they were arrested on in October. I mean, they appeared in court. Let me phrase it this way. When did you learn about their arrest? At the time of their arrest or when they appeared for the first time in court in Boksburg?
Uma uthi ke wakuzwa endabeni wakuzwa ngaleyo nyanga leyo ababoshwa ngayo noma wakuzwa uma sebevela enkantolo eBoksburg?
Angisakhumbuli kahle kodwa khona ngiyakhumbula ukuthi ngezwa, angitshelwanga muntu.
I can't remember well, but what I do recall is that I heard. No one informed me.
And now they appear for the first time in Boksburg and subsequent occasions. And I know that you follow this case religiously. When their photos were now widespread in newspapers, media, and general social media, when did you see their faces for the first time?
Base bevela ke eBoksburg njengoba eshilo ke ngoOctober nangamanye ke amalanga alandelayo ke base ke ubuso babo ke sebugcwala ke khona mabona ku TV, khona emaphepheni, ku social media. So uma uqala ke ukuthi ubone ke ubuso babo uqale nini ukuthi ubone ke ubuso babo, noma ubone ephepheni noma ubone TV noma ubone ku social media?
Okokuqala i-TV ngiyayi-avoid, especially indaba, ngoba leli cala into engizamayo ukuthi ngikhohlwe ngayo kodwa noma isimo singiphoqa ukuthi ngikhumbule.
Firstly, I avoid the television or the TV, especially the news, because of this matter. And but although the situation necessitates me not to avoid it or to remember it, but I'm trying not to.
So ukumbona kwami okokuqala ngambona, I think mangikhumbula kahle kwakutestify uMthoko.
When I saw him for the first time, if I remember well, I think it was when Mtoko was testifying.
And I don't know when Mtoko testified because I wasn't part of this trial when it started. When you saw him then, did you then go to the police and say, the person that is now accused number 2 in that matter is the person that I believe or think was the second suspect on the 26th of October 2014 at the incident at our house?
Uthi ke aka nesiqiniseko ke sokuthi uMthoko utestify nini ngoba ke bengasiyona ingxenye uma iqala leli liqala. Kodwa ke uma usumbona ke manje ngalesikhathi osho uthi wambona ngaso, ingabe waya yini emaphoyiseni wayowatshela ke ukuthi loya engimbona njengomsola noma accused number 2 yilo engikholela ukuthi ke kwakuwumsola wesibili ngaleli langa la nge-26 zika October 2014.
Into engiyazi ukuthi noma futhi ngangiyazi ngaleso sikhathi ukuthi liyofika usuku la ngizokwazi ukusho khona. So whether ngisho manje noma ngisho then kodwa kusalayo ngizosho.
What I know and what I knew at the time was that the day will come where I will get an opportunity to say that, whether I'm going to say it here or, but I will eventually say it.
Now, I'm not sure in total how many years have elapsed since October 26, 2014 to date. But in my estimation, it's nearing 9 years or just over 9 years. Will you correct me if I'm wrong?
Anginaso isiqiniseko kodwa ngicabanga ukuthi sekungale ku9 years noma sekusondele ku9 years kusuka ke nge-26 ka October 2014 ukuzosho manje.
Yebo kunjalo, sekusondele ku9 years.
That's true, it's close to 9 years.
And in that period, you'll agree with me that from 2014 October to now, the memory of the incident when it happened then and when you see him now, your memory has faded. Will you agree with me?
Uzovumelana ke noma uzovumelana nami uma ngithi ke ukusukela ngo-2014 sorry ngo-October ka-2014 kuze kube manje ke isigameko senzeka ngaleso sikhathi ke ukuthi indlela ke yokukhumbula noma ke lokwakubiza ngokuthi memory ke ukuthi ayisekho nanjenga indlela eyayingayo noma ke isiyafade ke.
Ngiqale ngokuthi into embi yenzeka empilweni yakho, especially mina into efana nale yayiqala, and engqondweni yami ayindawo.
Okay.
Ngiyakholwa ukuthi iminyakeni ezayo 20 esazolandela ngisazokhumbula.
Let me start by saying that something that happens, something bad that happens, and to me especially, it happened for the first time. So in my memory or in my mind, it won't go anywhere. And I also believe that in the next coming 20 years, that I will still be able to recall it.
Now, finally, with respect to the versions of accused number 1 and 2 and their instructions to me are as follows.
Engitshelwa ke ilaba ababili ke noma abakushoyo kumina ke laba ababili engibamele ke umsolo wokuqala nowesibili iloko kulandelayo.
My Lord, before I go there, I see accused number 1 is raising his hand. May I approach?
Yeah, I can approach.
Right? My Lord, my colleague here says it's China time for lunch at the moment.
What's the time now?
It's exactly 1 now.
Ali?
It's 1 o'clock, my Lord.
Mr. Valoy, should we adjourn?
Indeed, my lord.
And when do we come back? 2 o'clock. Okay, we'll adjourn until 2. Council for number 1 and 2. You're still on the floor.
Khumbuleke sisi ukuthi nosengaphansi kwesifungo ne.
Yes, should have oath here. Thank you.
As the court pleases, my lord, the last piece of evidence, my lord, is a.
You're saying you're putting the versions of case number 1 and 2.
I nearly, my lord, went over myself. There's the last piece of evidence, which is a record of interview conducted and participated into by.
Interview?
Yes.
Yeah.
By the witness, my lord.
Yeah.
And we've asked the state to assist us with that being shown here, my lord.
Was that discovered, the interview?
Yes.
Indeed, it was also transcribed.
Fine. Okay.
And given to
Okay, fine, yes. Let's listen to the interview.
How are you? How have the past 8 years? Thank you so much for your time. Let's just start with the fact that it's been 8 years since that fateful evening. It's something that I think hangs over your family's head. How are you? How have the past 8 years been?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm a happy person. I'm happy at home. Family's great. And obviously, we have this cloud hanging over us. And I want people to understand that I'm not here to speak ill of anyone. I'm not here to protect anyone. But I'm just here to raise my concerns on the case, of course, and also shine the light on the things that were happening behind the scenes that I feel people should know about, or the country must know about, that were never spoken about, you know. So I'm just gonna take you back to the first day's Balamba statements, because all along, there's no quiz, you know, obviously wanting them to find these perpetrators, find these suspects, but oh yes, Sahamba in the morning, we were called to give our statements in the morning. I was one of the first people that gave her statement. Right after that, we were asked to go to some room to finish the illustration and name of the suspects, of the people we saw that came into the house. We did that as well, and our phones were taken from us, or to investigate for Nani. And then they brought them back, I think a day later, if I'm not mistaken. And then leading, I think a couple of months down the line, on social media that ATA Ulokwe was the one to pull the trigger. Everybody saying that. And then eventually Longwe and myself were called. I remember we were at Longwe's grandmother's house. They came in the morning to come and fetch us. Simply because we want to help in any way that we can. So we were taken to Pretoria Police Station, SCBD. I don't know if you know it. And then got there, we were put in different rooms, interrogated. We were not questioned. There's a difference between questioning a person, asking a question for understanding, and interrogating a person. So we were interrogated no longer, him on the other room, me on the other room. And then same time, our phones were taken again. I don't know what they were hoping to find, but right after that, we were sent back home, Salina. And then came another day where we were asked now to come and give additional statements. I remember that day was 2018, and I just released my album, so somewhere in February.
So I left shooting in Yenza in the morning with the kids in my pajamas because the film says that I went straight from the shoot to the police station in Fosboras this time. And we got there around about 2 p.m. And from there onwards, we stayed up until 9. And for me, for umuntu ozonikeza the additional statement simply means whatever information that we feel was left out. We are not starting from over. Even original statements did not take that long. But we were all put together in different rooms. I was in my own room with about 5 to 6 officers, one lady, the rest was male, and I was asked questions. Whoever they felt they wanted to ask question would ask that question. And I kept on repeating the same thing over and over, and it was tiring. We couldn't even go to the bathroom, you know? And later they was about, okay guys, you guys can go. So I wouldn't need to, so we went. I remember at some point my voice was tired and I had a show the following day. And then from there onwards, let me just check again. Oh, and then we were called for a role play. You guys must be taken back to the scene. Well, that day I remember it was me and my sister and my mother. The others we did not see. As before Tina or after Tina, you know. But that day was myself, my mother, and my sister came. So we waited at my parents' house because we were no longer staying at that house and there was no one there. So while we were waiting there, they had people, the characters that we had to, you know, Ushubuto Kelo, Nimbona as Nibusen, so long Nimbona maybe as Ulongwe or long Nimbona as the perpetrator, so they even had props just to make everything make sense. So we went in one by one, came back. Hey man, I won't lie to you, it was the toughest time. Just give me a moment. Yeah, it was a rough time. And we were done. And then we went back home and then we waited. And then obviously social media is happening, papers are writing, TV's talking, and still nothing on those people. And then again, I think about, I don't know how many years later, we were called for a lie detector test.
There was a lie detector?
There was a lie detector test. Lie detector test, they fetched us in the morning. We went. In fact, you're not supposed to see each other, you're not supposed to speak to each other or whatever, I don't know. Which was also one of the things that made me really concerned.
Yeah. Do you remember maybe how long after did they call you for these lie detector tests?
If I'm not mistaken, I think it was 2018 or 17, somewhere there. Yeah, somewhere there. And then we were called for those lie detector tests. We went, and in Khumalo, there was some dude, tall dude, intimidating looking kind of dude, who was asking questions, and obviously they had those things that they put on you and you ask questions. And nothing came of it. Even no one suspected that no one would come back and say, I will pass the lie detector test, or we fail the social work or whatever. So I assumed to, okay, since no one is saying anything, go should we pass the lie detector test, because if next time person is so gosh, isn't it? Right. So went back home and we waited on the police. But I guess it's one thing I also want you to understand is that I know degrade me. I'm Lona police, you know. But looking at this whole situation, not to call umuntu oshonile endlini and umyeni kamuntu or your boyfriend, your muntu. The first suspect would be obviously maybe the girlfriend or the wife. Okay? And in all of this,
thina silandiwe kwamale detector test thina sisenzeni senzwani senzani, but no one has ever looked at uMandisa. No one. Thina bathi amafoni ayathathwa. uMandisa ifoni ayithathwa ngani? uMandisa ka-investigatewa ngani? Not so long ago, Magasenzo said on national television, she tried by all means to make sure that Kid Inocenzo does not happen, or Amalobolo does not happen. So my question is, to what length did she go to make sure this does not happen? Is it even possible that maybe no malokazana wakhe baletha abantu not necessarily to target uSenzo, but to target uKelly, to make sure that this does not happen? And also one of my other concerns is that the police are just fishing in one pond. Why can't we look at other avenues? Because Sina 8 years much is cool and but we want to begin in one direction. And that pulling answer below direction is payable. Why can't we look at other people, look at other possible or possibilities?
About the second docket, where you and your sister and everyone in the house are suspects. When did you learn of the second docket? And just maybe elaborate on how it made you feel, because in one docket you are a victim, and in another docket you're a suspect.
As I mentioned in my one of my posts on Instagram, I felt like Zandile case was just you know, because you can't have and then we are witnesses, we are victims, and then the next. So when did we get to that 360? How did we get to that answer? And it comes up in the second docket. It will be all along, unless you just want to pin something on, obviously, the people that are just right there so that you can get this over and done with.
So do you think this entire trial in itself is a farce?
Honestly, I don't trust that man for one.
Have you been contacted by the state?
No, I have not. No, I have not.
Ever?
Ever. And another thing that's also like a serious concern for me is that kuthiwa abantu babushiwe, ne? Thina njengabantu abababona abantu abangena endlini, ne? We were not called to ID these people. Why? Is it because now everything has suddenly changed and now we are suspects?
Do you recognize any of those names?
They were wearing masks half of the time. So there's no way I can say Ilo or Ilo. And none of those guys had dreadlocks. Some of them have gained weight. It's been a while. So right now I can't say Okon and Omagego between all of those people. But right now we're under about 5, but the people that came into our house was 2 people. Yeah.
Your sister said she wants a day in court. Do you want a day in court?
I can't wait for a day in court because as far as we are here, 8 years, it's been 8 years now, we've been telling the truth, nothing but the truth. We've been helping in every way we can. We've been assisting in every way we can. There's never a time where we were called and we were not available, you know, and we were not available. So we were always there to assist. So, Matua Zandile in the court, I'll be more than happy and more than willing to come forward and actually give my side of the story, and hopefully it will help somehow to get to the bottom of this, because Nadisum is cartel, to be quite honest. Internet, and they will be finding you know. Everyone that is there in court is obviously talking about what happened. Won't say we are analyzing. But Tina Bandu MSC call esaziyo for sure ukuthi kwenzakaleni kuphi kanjani ubani niye kuphi ubani ephetheni, we were not called.
Are you surprised that you guys are not the first witnesses to be called?
I am. Mina bengicabanga ukuthi mhlawumbe indaba izoqala ngathi bese khanye iqhubeka, and they will have their own questions and obviously maybe the other party will try and obviously try to prove that people not guilty and all of that. But I obviously thought ukuthi izoqala ngathi indaba. But yaqala kwendawo but ke asiyabantu bomthetho asizazi lezi zinto ukuthi zihamba kanjani, but thina masidingeka we'll be there. Yeah.
Let's talk about your new song. You released it caused quite a buzz. If I'm not mistaken, it's called Ikwela.
Yes, it's called
which I understand direct translation means a whistleblower.
A whistle.
A whistle.
Yes.
So it seems social media kind of took that and ran with it. I mean, the timing of it all, we're in the middle of the trial, there are talks of eyewitnesses that are going to tell the court that they saw who shot Senzo. And people are alluding to the fact that you are possibly that person, that eyewitness.
First of all, I can never be in control of what the social media sees or thinks or what they decide to say at whatever time, you know. But I'm not the witness, and I'm not doing meetings or blow whistle on who and what exactly. Because I've already given my statement, I've given an additional statement, I've role played, I've gone through a lie detector test. What more do I need to say?
Let's talk about Senzo's relationship with Kelly. Did you have any concerns when they started dating, looking at how things ended?
Senzo and Kelly because in a time. That's one thing that people do not know. And I don't think but usenzo uwemthanda uKelly uwemthanda usenzo. I used to call them Romeo and Juliet. I just sometimes fail to understand how does something so good tend to be so bad. And again, one point that I also want to raise and that I want people to understand is that there was no way Kelly would want to kill Usenzo in the comfort of her own home, risking the lives of her loved ones, including her kids. If there was a person out there who knew Senzo's whereabouts, was Kelly. You understand? And if whatever that you really would have wanted to do, she would not want to do it at home. At home was the last place. You understand?
Right now, maybe I should just ask, what is your relationship? Because in terms of the reports we're seeing, it seems you guys are estranged.
Can I just be honest? Ekhaya, Khumalo thina sifundiswe ngento yodwa mina, especially imiyalelo yabazali ndilandela kakhulu. There's no person ophuma ayingaphandle akhuluma indaba zomndeni wakhe. And what you guys saw on my Instagram that I posted was merely because I was defending myself at that particular point. You know, I have no bone in me to come out and say, hey, my business is my business, hence no one knows anything about me but my music and obviously what's going on right now at hand. Yeah.
You and everyone in that house is guilty.
Yeah.
What is it then?
We are not guilty until proven guilty. So if no one will come forward and say, yes, in a corner, I will die defending myself that I was not the person to pull the trigger. We were very happy. Most people think that we are so-called criminal masterminds. For some reason. But forgetting the fact that it was not just the Khumalos in the house. Yes, we've seen Togo every now and then, but we had seen or we had met for the first time that day because why is there in Daba you proper Amalobolo? Kaki. He was going to be Umkomi Gasenzo. So we just met him for the first time. So now plus Mope, Tulos, Mope, Abangani Bagasenzo, wouldn't they want to come out and say something? You understand? And it's been 8 years. At some point, maybe the man will run out if you are open the wood or Kulu. They were there. Because they saw what happened. And hopefully one will find a way to heal from this over time. It's still a very sensitive issue. I just hope that eventually we'll find solace, we'll find the answer that we're looking for. And obviously, all the lessons will have, I'm not allowed to lose it on one. Sorry, let's get my tissues. I will lose Uzali, I don't Uzali, I'm not the one. I'm a mother, I know that if anything could happen to my son right now, I'd lose my mind. You understand? It's unfortunate that this thing happened at my house or my mother's house. You know, and hopefully as a family we'll find a way to move forward. But we love each other, we are there for each other, we support each other. And I just hope that one day we'll find the answers to this riddle. I have so many doubts. For starters, fishing in the same pond for 8 years, that should say something about Tiloela himself. Or abantu bomthetho bala himself. How do we fish in the same pond for 8 years? I still get no answers but continue to fish. Why can't you try other doors, other suspects, maybe other people that you can question? You never know what you can find. Yeah, I don't understand. You never know. No matter sends away in the face of cat. I don't lose what I mean.
I'm going to ask you anything that you want to say as a parting shot, especially to those who think that you and those in the house should actually be the dog right now.
Okay, let me just take this opportunity firstly and just redirect all of this. Also, I'm going to mention some of the things that are also happening behind the scenes that people know nothing about. Obviously, after the whole incident, there were neighbors that were called for questioning and then in particular, kwalandwa umamsangweni. Umamsangweni khona umama bethu angazi isangoma kwa 2023. So lo mama loyo walandwa in the afternoon, go 5 kanje. And then she was interrogated and beaten the whole night by our police, Bala himself. And then let go the following morning. Because bebethi kumela mvume into angayazi and umamsana wathi angizuvuma into engayibona. Abanye abantu abathintekile umaphiri was accused of a whole lot of things now. But I want to take this opportunity to say sorry to those neighbors. It was not our intention. We did not plan for anything. But it just happened. I would not wish this to happen with my greatest enemy, because it's an ongoing cloud that is forever hanging on your shoulders. And in our woman, it means you are disturbed because of what he learned. You know, so I would like to take this opportunity to say sorry to you guys. It was not intentional.
It seems like there's a lot of issues around how that crime scene was handled.
Yes.
Like you mentioned, Mom Pierre, you were accused of tampering with the scene.
Yes.
Senzo's body being taken to the hospital according to the defense and removed from the scene. How much of this confusion
yes.
do you input on how the police would handle this case?
For me, Magati, the crime scene was tampered with. I don't know really what they mean because first of all, India Sekaina, the minute you get up by 5, it's a full house. But by the time Tina Sunday Spilera, although the house was packed. Some of the people we knew, some of the people we did not know. Abani introduced them and I know brigadiers, but I can't even remember half of them. Maybe I remember seeing this face at that particular point, but the house was full. So Magati, the scene was tampered with. Bashutin, because to what extent are you saying the crime scene was tampered with? Minamang Puma from endlini ngifuna usizo kamaphiri ngithema ngibuya kamaphiri already Kelly nomthoko bebebambisana with some of the guys from next door bebebambisana senze bemfake emotweni emuva. I just jumped in there and ngalekelela nami ngiyeke akhona. I was the one sitting senze emuva putting pressure on the wound leading to the hospital. Even on our way to the hospital, I could feel from going up because I was holding him here. Foot being his skipper is 5 fingers, so I could feel his stomach all the way. I was busy talking to him all the way, trying to keep him alive. But unfortunately,
if you could go back, still anything else you could have changed? Do you think you could have changed that day?
I go through this most of the time. You know, as a woman, everybody usually says, Ikishi playground, your mother's father. We know all the weapons in our way around the kitchen. Yes, we do. But when something happens of that magnitude, believe you me, maybe having a keep mess and I maybe if Baba one or Salah, even if one would have said something after with Bizubanon. You know, things just go through your mind. I would have wanted to do so much. But unfortunately, in my condo, there's nothing you can possibly do. Whether you agree or you don't. If you have to go through what you have to go through, you will go through it regardless of what you think or what you wanted you to change the situation.
Thank you for your time, Zandile.
Thank you so much for having me.
Shocking claims there from Zandile Khumalo.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, my lord. Thank you. We are indebted, my lord. Now, Ms. Khumalo, I'm not going to ask you a lot on emanating from that video. I just want, except to go to the part where you say they were wearing masks and I could not identify them, only that aspect. When you say they were wearing masks, who are you referring to?
Ngaphandle nje kwala usho khona ke uthi babefake ama mask ngingakwazi nokuba identify uma uthi babe usho obani noma ukhuluma ngobani.
Mangisho njalo bengikhuluma ngama accused.
When I said so, I was referring to the accused.
And by the accused, are you referring to which accused in specifically?
Uma ungaba ungathi ungakhuluma nje ngo ba people noma ukhuluma ngamuphi accused.
Ukhumbule advocate ngaleso sikhathi kwakuyisikhathi secorona. So wonke umuntu wayengena evaluable.
You remember, advocate, that at the time it was during the time of the corona pandemic, so everyone that would come in or was coming in would come in with his or her face covered.
Do you mean when they are there? Sorry to say, I'll only refer to accused number 1 and 2 when they appeared in court on this matter.
Ngizoqonda nje mina ke ngo number 1 no number 2 usho nkathi bevela enkantolo mayelana nalecala.
Ngisho khona yebo.
That's what I'm referring to, yes.
Okay. As the court pleases, my lord, that is all from my side.
Okay, thank you. You haven't put your version of the defense.
I am, my lord. Now, ma'am, I represent 1 and 2, like I said. Their versions with regard to how they were arrested and how they ended up here is the following.
Ngimele-ke umsolo wokuqala nowesibili. Yiloku-ke abakushoyo-ke noma engizochaza-ke kuwena-ke ukuthi baboshwa kanjani.
Accused number 1 will testify that at the time of his arrest, he was staying in Tembisa with his uncle.
Umsolo wokuqala uzuthi nkathi eboshwa wayehlala nomalume wakhe eThembisa.
And that on the 30th of May 2020, he had gone out to buy airtime at the shops.
Futhi aqhubeke athi-ke ngeyi-30 zika May 2020 wayehamba noma ephumileke eyothenga i-airtime esitolo.
And that on the way he encountered 2 of his friends that he only know by nicknames as Boy and Brother.
Boy and brother.
Yes.
Uthi-ke endleleni wahlangana-ke nabangani bakhe ababili abazi ngokuthi uBoy kanye nobrother.
And by then he had already bought airtime, and Boy and Brother were heading to someone called Sipho's house.
Ngaleso sikhathi-ke i-airtime ebeseyithengile futhi-ke laba babili uBoy kanye nobrother bebeya emzini noma endlini-ke yomunye abathi uSipho.
He then joined the 2 as he also knew who Sipho was, to go and just chill at Sipho's place.
Wasehamba nabo-ke nanjengoba uSipho naye-ke kwakuwumuntu ayemazi ukuthi nje ayoyihlalela-ke noma ayochilla nabo.
Now, as he is there, he observed a white VW motor vehicle sedan parking at what they call in the township Pakistani shops, tuck shop.
Uthi-ke eselapho-ke aze aboneke imoto emhlophe isedan ye-VW emeke esitolo noma eshop yamaPakistan.
My lord, if I may approach his sir.
Yes.
Your Worship, sorry, my lord, he was just changing the description. He was changing the description of the color. I said the color was white. It was red. Was white. So he says it was red, my lord.
It was red.
Yes.
Okay.
Yena-ke ummeli ebethe imoto ibibomvu kodwa-ke useyamlungisa-ke umsola uthi yena uthe yayimhlophe kodwa useyalungisa-ke kuthiwa kwakuyimoto ebomvu.
And then that in that car there was a female driver with 2 male persons as passengers.
Nokuthi kuleyo moto-ke kwakushayela umuntu wesifazane egibele noma kukho ababili abesilisa ababe phakathi.
Then he says one of the passengers from that car got out, got into the tuck shop, bought a bottle of water and some bananas.
Oyedwa kulawo mapassenger wasehla eyesitolo wathenga amanzi kanye nobanana.
And he returned back to the vehicle, and the vehicle never left the area where it was parked.
Wabuyela khona-ke emotweni and imoto leyo-ke ayizange-ke ihambe la eyayime khona.
Now, as they were just chilling with the people that he says he was with, a few moments, a Metropolis officer with a firearm arrived, and he went to the red car.
Uthe akubanga isikhathi-ke nanjengoba yena-ke wayehlezi nalabo ayehlezi nabo kwase kufika-ke iphoyisa-ke la Metropolis, you said with a firearm.
With a rifle.
Ephethe-ke uma ukhuluma nge-rifle ukhuluma ngale bhamu eyinkulu-ke lahamba-ke leyo officer leyo waya kuleya moto.
And having talked or whatever was happening in that car, he then saw that Metro Police officer crossing the road, coming towards their direction, pointing the rifle at them.
Khuluma-ke leyo officer noma leyo Metro Police officer lapho kuleyo moto-ke loko owayekhuluma. Meqeda-ke lapho eseqedile-ke lapho weza ngakubona-ke kuhlangothi lolu ababengakulona ekhombile leso sibhamu noma leyo rifle awayeyiphethe.
And at some stage during that, once they were looking at that officer and the other people that were in the car now coming in tow all the way as well, coming over to where that officer was coming to.
Him alone or him and the people in the car?
The people that were in the car. First is that officer is crossing the road coming to where
Yes.
they are.
Yes.
Now also the people from the car come over.
Okay. Liseza-ke lelo phoyisa lelo liphethe leso sibhamu leso nabantu labo ababesemotweni leyo nabo-ke babese bemlandela-ke beza la ababehlezi khona yena kanye nabangani bakhe.
And he says he doesn't know where the other Metro Police officers came, but there's a wall in a house next to brother's house. He saw several other Metro Police officers with rifle walking in a crouching manner, also coming to join this officer towards where they were chatting.
Uthi akazi-ke ukuthi amanye ama-Metro Police officer lana ayeqhamukaphi-ke kodwa ethi kwakunobonda-ke olwalukhona-ke ngamuzi loyo nabo babesebeza-ke nabo futhi bephethe ibhamu.
And once all the officers were there, they were ordered to lie down on their stomachs.
Athe uma amaphoyisa lawo esefika-ke kubona batshelwa-ke noma balayelwa-ke ukuthi abalale phansi ngezisu.
They complied, and one of the officers, he doesn't know because they were on their stomachs, he asked them one by one what their names were and where they came from.
Uthi-ke nanjengoba beleli phansi bebheke phansi kunephoyisa elilodwa-ke akalazi ngoba bebheke phansi ebabuza-ke umuntu ngayedwa ukuthi babe obani amagama abo babuya kuphi.
And upon stating that he's from Mahlabathini, Nongoma, KwaZulu-Natal, they pulled him up to his feet.
Uthe uma ebatshela-ke noma esesho-ke ukuthi yena ubuye emahlabathini KwaZulu Natal babe semisa ngeinyawo.
And they searched him and confiscated his phones.
Base bemsesha baphuca noma bathatha ifone yakhe noma his phones. Okay, amafone akhe.
And thereafter they laid him again on the floor in his tummy.
Base bephinda futhi bemlalisa phansi ngesisu.
And thereafter they took the three other persons that he was with to their feet, searched them, and then laid them again on the ground.
Base be searched the other two. Okay.
Yes.
Basesha nalabo abanye abawu2 nabo awekade benabo nabo baphinde futhi babalalisa phansi.
The long and short of it is that he was then taken to that car that was parked opposite, and together with several other police cars, he says it was about a convoy of plus minus 10 to 15 police vehicles from the Ekurhuleni, Metro Police, intelligence, all sorts of units. He was forced to take.
That's a lot.
Okay, sorry.
10 to 15 police vehicles from Ekurhuleni.
It's Ekurhuleni, Metro Police, the police, intelligence, all sorts of units.
Uthi use basebemthatha ke bemhambisa ke bemnikisa kuleyo moto ke noma kumoto yayilapho. Kwakukhona nezinye imoto eziwu10 ukufika ku15 zamaphoyisa ke Ekurhuleni Metro Police. Ama units nje ngama units ahlukene kanye namaphoyisa ezakhona lapho kuleyo ndawo.
My Lord, if I may approach again,
Yes,
I'm indebted, my lord. He was just correcting a small thing, my lord, that all of these police vehicles, amongst them, the only one that was marked was the Ekurhuleni Police car.
Uthi kuzona zonke ke le imoto ke eyayinophawu ke noma eyayimakiwe kwakuyimoto ke amaphoyisa yase Ekurhuleni.
And from there he was forced to go to where he resided with his uncle at the rented place in Tembisa.
Ukusuka lapho ke basephoqwa ke ukuthi aye la ahlala khona ke kule ndawo yomqasho ke ahlala khona nomalume wakhe eThembisa.
Fortunately, when they got at the yard, they found his uncle and Xoli seated near the gate at that residence.
Bamthola ke umalume wakhe ehlezi ke ngasegate khona lapho.
His uncle was in the company of a person named Xoli, he says he was his uncle's co-worker.
Umalume wakhe ke ehlezi noXoli athi ke umuntu ayesebenza naye.
Now they told his uncle that he's been arrested and forced his uncle to go and open the room in which both him and his uncle were staying, and they searched that area.
Base betshela umalume ke ukuthi uboshiwe yena noma bambophile futhi betshela ke umalume ukuthi akahambe ke ayovula la bahlala khona bona bobabili.
Indeed, a search was conducted and nothing was found at those premises, and then they left with him.
Ngokuthi ke bazosesha empeleni ke basesha abazange bathole lutho base behamba naye.
But before they left, his uncle asked one of the officers by the name of he asked an officer by the first name of Bongani, doesn't know the surname, that where they were taking accused number 1, and Bongani replied by saying, rather the uncle give the police the uncle's contact number, then they let him know later.
Wase umalume ke ebuza elinye iphoyisa igama lalo uBongani kodwa ke akamazi isibongo ukuthi bamsa kuphi ke uBongani asethi ke kumalume ngcono ke ukuthi usinike ke amanamba akho amaphoyisa azokwazisa emuva kwesikhathi noma ke esikhathini.
Now the long and short of it is that he was taken to some place that looks like a municipality offices in Tembisa.
Uthi ke la athathwa asiwa khona ke kwakuyindawo ebukeka noma ebhekeke ngathi amahhovisi kamasipala eThembisa.
And at that place where all those officers that were present at the first time when he was arrested were also present there.
Kuleyo ndawo onke amaphoyisa ayekhona ngesikhathi ayeboshwa ngaso ayekhona lapho.
And at that place he was told that he's going to tell the truth that they want to hear from him, and he was with a plastic bag held against his face tightly, the face, the nose, the mouth, the eyes, and laced with pepper spray, tortured for several hours.
Kuleyo ndawo base bemtshela ke ukuthi uzobatshela ke konke abafuna ukwazi noma abafisa ukwazi khona lapho ke base bethatha uplastic one pepper spray base bemvala ke ngawo ke umlomo wakhe ubuso bakhe amakhala lana akhe kanye namehlo.
He says that from the 30th of May 2020 until he was made to sign a confession and do a pointing out, he was tortured from that date until the 6th of June 2020.
Ukusuka nge-30 zika May 2020.
From the 20th of the 30th of May 2020, this process of being tortured, assaulted, tortured was done on him until he confessed, and then on the 6th of June, that's when this torturing stopped.
Usuka nge-30 zika May 2020. konke lokhu kwenzeka ke ukuthi bemthoshara ke bemenza yonke into ukuze abe uyakhuluma ke wenza leyo confession akhuluma ngayo kwaze kwashaya ilanga langa yi6 zika June 2020.
Sorry, sir. I want to be fair to you.
Yes.
Once you say your client confessed, what do you mean? And I just want you to get what you intend conveying to this court. They tortured him from the 30th of May 2020 until the 6th of June 2020 until he confessed. You can't say that.
My Lord, yes. I must
Because another
paraphrase.
judge will just
Yes, let me
let it
paraphrase, my
go.
Lord. Let me.
Later on, he'll say to you, but you told me your client confessed.
Yes. No, let me paraphrase, my Lord. He was forced to sign a statement implicating himself in the commission of this offense.
Wapho ukuthi asayinde
A
istatement
statement,
noma
yes.
waphoqwa ukuthi asayinde istatement noma istatement evuma ukuthi uyambandakanyeka noma unento ayaziyo mayelana nalecala.
And once he had done that, as an peace atonement, the officers that arrested him then told him that because in the time that he was arrested, he had never seen his family. From the 30th of May until 6th June, nobody from his family knew where he was.
Kusuka ke ngeyi30 zika May ilanga leli athathwa ngalo noma boshwa ngalo ke akekho umuntu omndenini wakhe owayemazi ukuthi ukuphi nendawo.
Now, having signed the statement implicating himself, on the 6th of June, he was taken to, at first he was approached that what does he want for him to be done for him by the police, and he said that he wished to see his uncle.
Kwase kuthi ke ngeyi6 lezo zika June 2020 esesayindile ke istatement leso wabuzwa ke ukuthi isifiso sakhe siyini wasesho ke yena ke ukuthi ufisa ukuthi angabona umalume wakhe.
If I may approach, my Lord. I mean, that he was just confirming because he thought I made a mistake on the date. I was correct with respect to the date of the 6th, that they then took him home to KwaZulu-Natal into police cars to see his family.
To KwaZulu-Natal.
Yes.
Okay. So ngalelanga ke langa yi6 zika June 2020 base bemthatha ke bemhambisa bemsa khona ke eKZN ukuthi ayobona umndeni wakhe.
And when they got home, he was not allowed to leave the car whilst they were there.
Uma befika noma uma sebefika ke ekhaya akazange avunyelweke ukuthi aphume emotweni.
But the police officers went inside and introduced themselves and told the parents that they are with him and that he's in the car and that he's being charged for the commission of this offense.
Kodwa ke amaphoyisa wona angena endlini ayichaza-ke noma bazazisa-ke kubazali bakhe-ke futhi bebachazela-ke nokuthi bahamba naye futhi-ke uboshiwe-ke eboshelwa-ke icala leli.
Furthermore, that after the police had done so, they sent firstly the father to come and talk to him in the car.
Batheke emuva kokuthi bekwenzile lokho baqale bathumela ubaba-ke ukuthi aye kuyena emotweni.
And he then told his father that he had nothing to do with this offense.
Wasetshela ubaba wakhe-ke ukuthi yena akunalutho okumhlanganisa nalesigameko.
That he only agreed to sign a statement because he was being tortured and assaulted.
Nokuthi-ke wasevuma-ke noma esayinda-ke istatement esimhlanganisa nalokhu ngoba babemshaya futhi bemtorture.
And that further that they were forcing him to agree that he had committed this offense with some of the Buthelezi brothers.
Futhi-ke bemphoqa-ke nokuthi-ke avumeke ekuthini wakwenza lokhu kanye kwababuthelezi.
And he told them that he was being kept mainly at the police station in Pretoria called Villaria.
Batshela nokuthi-ke ugcinwe-ke Pretoria Villaria.
And after that, then they brought the mother, then the cousin also, but individually to talk to him in the car.
Emuva kwalokho babesebeletha uma beletha-ke no cousin wakhe-ke kodwa-ke umuntu ngayedwa ukuthi azokhuluma naye emotweni.
And each time those persons came to the car, he repeated to them the same denials and the same averments he made to his father.
Bekuthi-ke umuntu meza aphinde leyo nto ebeyitshele ubaba wakhe noma abeyitshele ubaba wakhe.
Therefore, he denies that he was involved in the commission of this offense.
Ngalokho-ke uthi yena-ke cha wayengekho nje ekwenziweni noma ekwenzekeni kwalesi sigameko.
Now, with respect to accused number 2, he was arrested in phase 2, Rustenburg, where he resided and he was working at the mine in Rustenburg.
Umsolo wesibili-ke yena uthi ukuboshwa kwakhe waboshwa phase 2 eRustenburg la ewayesebenza khona-ke esebenza emine.
He says it was on the evening of 16 June when 2 police officers arrived at his place.
Uthi kwakungobusuku-ke bangeyi-16 zikaJune kona-ke lo nyaka ka-2020 uma nkathi-ke kufika amaphoyisa ezombopha.
And that they told him that they were looking for a person, that they showed him the photos from the cell phone.
Babe sethi kuyena-ke bafuna umuntu babe sebemkhombisa-ke noma bemtshengisake isithombe efonini.
That person had, from the photos that they showed to him, had tattoos. He had a gold inlet on one of his tooth, and also he had that prison gang insignia tattoo of the 28th on his arm.
Tattoos, gold, 28 tattoo on his arm. So arm. Okay. Uthi loyo muntu-ke ababemkhombisa yena-ke kuleyo phone leyo kwakuwumuntu onama-tattoo one-gold ezinywini kanye futhi-ke onaleya tattoo yenamba noma-ke eyenombolo phakathi edanyane eyama-28.
Similarly, like accused number 1, he was over a period of time assaulted until he also signed incriminating statements, 2 incriminating statements.
Washaywa-ke naye bemshaya ngendlela ukuthi aze avumeke noma asayindeke iy'tatimende eziwu-2 la khona-ke naye ayifaka khona-ke kuleyo itatimende.
And having done so, he also denies that he was involved in the commission of this offense.
Naye-ke yakuphika-ke ukuthi-ke wayekhona-ke ekwenzekeni noma ekwenzakaleni kwalesi sigameko.
Those are my instructions.
Noma
my
ngokusho
lord.
kanjalo
Okay, thank you.
kuyaphikisana-ke lako ukuthi wayekhona ekwenzekeni kwalesi sigameko.
Accused number 1, may you stand up? Mr. Sibiya,
Mr. Sibiya, sicela usukuma.
you heard what your counsel was saying when he was enunciating your section 115 statement.
Ukuzwile-ke lokhu oqeda ukushiwo ummeli wakho na manje ekusho-ke ethi yiloko wena okushoyo ukuthi kwenzeka. Umzwila ngithi?
Yeah, regarding
Yes.
your defense, you
Yes,
heard
my
it,
lord. Yes, my lord.
understood.
Yes, my lord.
You confirm that, sir?
Uyakuvuma lokho?
Okay, fine.
Yes, my lord, but it's just the 6th is the day that I was taken home, and then the beating was started on the 30th up until the 5th.
Okay. And then, yeah, I've corrected that. Fine. Is that the only correction?
Yiloko phela ofuna ukulungisa.
Hello?
Mr. Sweet. Also the fact that they were assaulting me together with the other people or in the company of others, it was not these that are here.
Okay. Any other thing you want to add, sir?
Corner win? I think that's fair, my lord.
Okay, thank you. Choose Mr. Ndusi, is it?
Danzi.
Danzi. Excuse 2. Did you hear what your counsel said?
Ukuzwile.
The defense statement.
Ukuzwile lokho kushiwo ummeli wakho ngawe la egcineni ethi ke yiloko omtshele kona uthi kwenzeka kanjani ukuthi uze uboshwe. Ukuzwile.
Yeah, your
Yes, I
second
heard, my lord.
statement.
I heard it, my lord, but I wasn't assaulted for only one day. Sorry. Usawakhumbula? Usawakhumbula noma awusawakhumbula? Okay. In 19. Okay. It's the dates that I can't remember anymore because, my lord, I was not kept at one police station. I moved around police station. But there's one date that I can remember, the date of the 19th, when I was taken back to Carltonville, where I first worked.
Is that all?
You go.
Yeah,
Okay. After finishing assaulting me at night, my lord, they took me back to Rustenburg, where I was working. Wakusa ubani? Kininda, no? Okay, I just want to take the names, my lord. Kininda. Upindu bizo ubani? Mukhale. Mukhane. And Nabani? Mabena. Okay, and the other thing, my lord, is that what they arrested me for is something that I don't know. Even mentioned the accused number 3, accused number 4, number 5. I don't know them. So, okay, I know accused number 5 by seeing him, but we are not acquaintances. He mentioned the names of the people that took him: Kininda, Mukhane, and Mabena.
Okay, is that all, sir?
That's correct, my lord.
Thank you.
Sabam.
Right.
I know that I need to start with the cross-examination. May I quickly request a very brief adjournment? I need to respond to the court of nature.
What's the time now,
I can't even
Mr.
start,
Bowie?
my lord.
10 past 3.
Are you going to finish your cross-examination today?
Today? No, certainly not, my lord. Certainly not. And I don't think it's going to be fair for a witness to be taken halfway and then we proceed tomorrow. Yes.
Okay.
I was just wondering if it won't be an opportune moment for to request an adjournment up until tomorrow.
Mr. Baloyi,
So we are going to.
That is in order, my lord.
will you be available tomorrow, ma'am?
Ukhona kusasa? Yes, I will be available, my lord.
Okay, then the matter will be postponed to tomorrow, 10 o'clock.
Icala ke liyahlehlisa kuze kube kusasa ngo-10.